It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. What a great show ahead for you. Amanda Silberling is here from TechCrunch, Jason Calacanis from the All In podcast, and Father Robert Ballecer. We'll talk about artificial intelligence. We'll talk about cameras everywhere and the future of humanity. It's all ahead next on TWiT.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 1037, recorded Sunday, June 22nd, 2025. Teach Amanda Fish. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. Get ready, it's going to be a barn burner, ladies and gentlemen. Father Robert Ballecer is here from high above Vatican City. Hello, Father Robert.
Greetings from my barn on top of St. Peter's.
Bon Ben. Yeah, you were probably pretty busy over the last few months.
It's been a time. Actually, I was supposed to be back in the United States at the end of April, and then many things happened. And because of that, my schedule got compressed. I was keynote speaker at a bunch of AI conferences in Budapest, then New York, then Los Angeles.
Wow.
But because everything got compressed, instead of going from Rome to Budapest to New York to Los Angeles, I went Rome to Las Vegas to Budapest to Vegas to New York to Vegas to Los Angeles to Vegas to Rome. Yeah.
Of course, Vegas is where your mom and dad are, and
right,
I know you.
Right. Which is very hot, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but it's hot in the United States right now.
The whole country is burning up, except for California, which usually it's the other way around. But we're getting a relatively cool snap. That's Amanda Silberling from TechCrunch. She's their senior culture writer. It's great to see you, Amanda. OMG LOL.
That is a URL that I own. But I am not on top of any historic sites. I am simply just in Philadelphia.
Nice.
A historic site in itself.
It's pretty warm in Philadelphia. I see that clock is melting behind you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's within my apartment. It's hot enough to melt.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, if you want a spritz or something, just go ahead and do that. Don't hold back. No. Also here, he's out of doors because beautiful Los Angeles, the weather is fine. Mr. Jason Calacanis, the host of the hottest podcast in the world right now, All In. Hello, Jason.
It's good to be home. Nice to see you, Lou.
Nice to see you. Always a pleasure. Yeah. To see Jason. This is not really home. You live in Austin now, though, right?
I live in Austin. I'm in LA. We just had the launch of the All In ultra premium tequila last night. So
you had to do it.
I kid you not.
To do it.
I mean, this is David Sachs. He's a tequila guy, so he launched a brand of tequila. So now I'm out there hawking tequila.
Could be worse. Could be a gold phone. So I think the tequila is probably the better way to go.
Absolutely, yeah.
The better way to go.
So
that's hysterical.
There's a lot. It's pretty hilarious.
Every celebrity has a tequila. There must be a significant profit margin in tequila.
I guess. It's these are $1,200 bottle of tequila. It's very tasty. I'll tell you that. But
what is it? Is there gold flakes in it? What is going on with it?
It's a hand painted, gorgeous bottle.
Oh, that's nice.
It's like a.
What's the site? So I want to.
Allin.com. I don't know if it's on.
Oh, it's on the podcast.
Yeah. It's it's a spinoff from the podcast because the podcast has no advertising on it, and so. As a concept, but it's not there.
Well, geez, you just missed a huge opportunity.
It will be available soon. Yeah,
a huge opportunity.
It's going to sell out either way, but
I guess. And is it sell to fans? Is that the deal?
Yeah, the podcast has gotten pretty big, and I'd say that
doesn't hurt that the connections to the Trump administration with David Sachs.
Yeah, David Sachs is in the White House. It's on the weekends, it goes to the top 10 on the Apple podcast list, which is a little bit surreal, having been in podcasting with you, getting my start really here on TWiT for getting close to 20 years now, 15 years.
It is. It's over 20 years.
Yeah. Here for you and 15 for me or so or something. It's really interesting to watch how popular it's got. It's crossed over, and the top 1-2% of the audience is leaders in tech or leaders.
That's why you
countries.
Want this podcast, right? Because this is hugely influential.
It's pretty weird.
Plus, it looks like pretty good parties as well.
Parties are great. Yeah, it's nuts, but it's very weird because when we all started podcasting, Leo, and you had us all on, me, Kevin Rose.
I was listening to an old show that you were on. It was at your house, and you were about to do another show, and Kevin Pollak was there, and
Kevin Pollak. I taught him how to podcast, and he did a show for a while.
Yeah. Bunch of people. Now Mark Maron is abandoning his podcast, WTF.
He decided to retire. Well, if you think about it like Ripples, you started all this, and then Kevin Rose, myself.
I don't think I started it.
Adam Curry,
Yeah.
John C. and those guys all like it all kind of like a bunch of ripples in the water. And then subsequent podcasts, et cetera, they all
it's
kind of
taken off as a medium.
TWiT.
Yeah, it's all taken off as a medium.
Yeah, right.
As has you're still doing This Week in Startups, I know.
Yeah, 3 days a week, me and Alex Wilhelm do it, and that's really a niche podcast focused just on startups. We will delve into big tech like you do here, but we only talk about it in relation to startups.
So Robert, you were saying that you've been going to AI conferences. Is this in your capacity as the digital Jesuit, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so with the new Pope choosing the name Leo.
By the way, thank you. You probably put a little bug in his ear. It suggested that would be a good name.
Well, I mean, the reason for that is because the previous Pope Leo was the one who promulgated the encyclical Rerum Novarum. Now, little history lesson specifically. Okay. Rerum Novarum was the start of Catholic social teaching. It was a document that was against the dehumanization of the Industrial Revolution. He was
the Pope at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And
that's correct. And he was the one who promulgated the document. That's the document, that's the basis for the church's response to AI. So AI it's not a buzzword around here. It's a thing. It's going to be a signature part of Pope Leo's papacy.
TechCrunch says Pope Leo makes AI's threat to humanity a signature issue.
Absolutely. And okay, so there's going to be people who are going to take this story and they're going to run with it into thinking that, the Catholic Church, they're taking the Luddite position. No. In the internal conversations and in these conversations that we've been having at the start of this process, there's a recognition of some of the wonderful things that AI has been able to do. We've been using it to combat human trafficking. We've been using it to look at patterns of deforestation. So there are things that we would really like to encourage, but there is something very similar to what was happening during the Industrial Revolution when we're talking about the AI revolution. And that's what the Catholic Church wants to be involved with. We are uniquely positioned because this is what we've been doing. The things that people are complaining about AI, those are the issues that we've had for the last almost 200 years. It's sort of all hands on deck for AI.
It ties in very well to the piece you just published at Substack, Jason.
Yeah.
Why we don't talk about job destruction, but we must.
It's this is a very interesting thing. You and I have been in tech our whole careers, me 30, and you've been in it, I guess, since the 80s. I was listening.
You could say 50. It's okay.
Whatever. I mean, but since the 80s, and listen, I remember reading John Dvorak, and I heard you on another, I'm not sure which show on the network it was, but you were talking about Ziff and all the other publications. And when you got started, when you wrote your first article, I think your first article was Atari or something.
I wrote about Ataris back in the 70s, and then I wrote one of the very first Macintosh reviews for Byte magazine in '84. And so I've been covering this 50 years. Yeah.
And that's, I got the Atari 2600 in 1977-8, the Sears model. And then I used to get Byte magazine. So
you were a kid though, right?
I was born in 1970. So I was 7-8 years old. My dad got me the Atari 2600 and that really set me on a career, IBM PC Junior. And for much of my career, in as an adult, the last 35 years or so in tech, we had, I was kind of indoctrinated into the tech's going to happen, so we might as well build it. And society will figure out a way. It's this inevitability of tech, right? So we just might as well accelerate into it.
I think
everybody's going to benefit.
At least in the tech industry, that's still the general belief. Like,
I would say that
you could try to stop it, but why? It's going to happen whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and I was at a conference this week, and I've been, since I'm on the inside now as an investor, I started as a journalist, entrepreneur, and then became an investor. So I went from, an outsider trying to figure out what was going on inside the room to being inside the room where they make the decisions of, who to give a check to. And what to bet on, and that starts the whole process of building this technology. So what I realize is I think the job displacement this time will be different. Everybody tries to make an analogy towards the Industrial Revolution and us stopping farming, and only 1% of people work in agriculture today. But when I started doing the back of the envelope math, and I started looking at how quick this displacement is happening, I've come to the conclusion that in the next 10 years, we're going to see serious job displacement. And we were talking about this prior to ChatGPT being lost. And you might remember Sam Altman doing, when he was at Y Combinator, a study on universal basic income that he funded. And everybody talked about it constantly, very publicly. And the last
That's kind of been the antidote to job losses. Oh, well, don't worry, because there's going to be so much surplus thanks to technology that we'll be able to pay everybody a universal basic income.
Yes, there's really like 2 or 3 different solutions to the job destruction problem. We can get into that.
It always seemed to me kind of a little hand wavy, because where's all that money going to come from?
Yeah,
it's extremely hand wavy.
Who's paying for this UBI? Is it the federal government?
I mean, we have UBI today in the form of a lot of different programs we have. So
entitlements,
if you took all the entitlements together and you just wrote people a check, and there's people who have, theorized just doing this.
But how big a check would it be?
We could do the math. I think it'd probably be low thousands per month for people who are at the bottom of the
So you can't even pay rent in Petaluma for low thousands.
It would be like,
let alone eating.
It would be like unemployment or food stamps and these kind of things.
Yeah, it would be subsistence.
So, the question is, will we create enough new jobs to make up for the ones that are lost, right? So the typing pool went away, the mail room went away, photocopy room went away. We've watched all these jobs go away over time. This time, I just think we have to be a little more thoughtful about it, because, today Tesla launched their Austin self-driving. I got to drive last week in one of those prototypes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And immediately, by the way, the state of Texas passed a law saying you got to have a permit to do that.
Yeah. So people are, but
obviously aimed at Elon. I mean, Elon does have a safety driver still, which lets him off the hook for a while. But
yeah, I think they have a safety operator. It's interesting. It's in the passenger side, but
he's not in front of the wheel?
Not in front of the wheel, but there's a stop.
Oh,
and
that's not
button.
Encouraging.
It's kind of like right in between what Waymo did. There's a big stop button and a pull over button on the dashboard. So if something happens, and they're going only low speed in a small area. And then I was talking to Zipline, which is doing delivery.
Before you move on, how was that ride? Was it? I know you're friends with Elon.
Yeah, I'm good friends.
Are you still buddies? Yeah.
Oh yeah, still best friends. Yeah. I have the latest hardware for Tesla Juniper Model Y, and I've put a couple 100 miles on it doing self-driving. I think the cyber cabs, the robo taxis, have a little bit of a better version of that. It feels a little more aggressive and confident. I still think, well, yeah. And
it was doing rolling stops. It was doing California stops for a while. And somebody said, well, that's because Elon trained it, and that's how Elon drives.
Well, it is a neural net. It's how it drives. So it's studying humans. I do think that this technology is here and it works. It should just be very regulated, and you should have to have a safety driver for the first 10,000 miles or 10,000 rides, maybe a million, some number.
So GM gave up on Cruise and basically dissolved the division. Google's going ahead with Waymo, big time. You can't go around San Francisco without seeing 1,000 Waymos, Waymo every other car.
Yeah.
Elon wants to get into this business, but he's not alone. This is the one of the hot businesses right now is robo-taxis.
There'll be many winners. Volkswagen has a very competitive product. There's a company, Pony AI. There's WeRide. So
Amazon has Zoox.
Zoox, yeah. There are in the United States.
Oh, well, we'll never know what we'll have in the United States. Jason,
one of the things
happens when you work outside.
These technologies are taking the low hanging fruits of the gig economy, which is one of the few things
sad.
That is actually it's sad. But and I know people have alluded this before, but essentially the key to driving this with capitalism is that it's replacing the most expensive and least efficient part of the capitalist system, which is the people, which sounds great. And it will increase your profits short term until there's no one who can afford to buy your goods and services.
Yeah, the people are now out of work. I think that I remember reading an estimate. There was something, I think 14 million truck drivers in the United States. And of course, trucks are one of the very first things that will go autonomous.
Absolutely.
So in his article, we'll get back to it when Jason comes back, but he talks about 3 solutions: the UBI, new job creation, which is often the response to industrial disruption or technological disruption. It was in the industrial era. People, stopped making buggy whips, but found, it says his laptop overheated in the sun.
Welcome to Los Angeles.
And then his third solution, he says his favorite is AI vacation, which surprises me coming from Jason. We'll have to ask him about this. He's also talking about Andy Jassy at Amazon saying, get ready because we're going to replace a lot of executives.
So a couple of trends that I've seen at these conferences that I've been doing. First, everyone loves to talk about AI, but almost everyone doesn't think that their job can be done by AI, which I always have to dissuade.
You couldn't have an AI podcaster, could you?
Right. And it's always sort of like, no, absolutely.
I think Google already does.
Yeah. But one of the other issues has also been that they're thinking of this as an overlay on top of the existing system. We can fix it with X, Y, and Z, universal basic income, et cetera, et cetera. Social services increase. But what we're going to have with the coming of AI as it gets perfected, it's not just the changing of the economic structure of the society. It's going to change society itself. We could actually see the reversal of what we saw starting with the Industrial Revolution, where population centers rushed to the cities. If we're all on UBI and if most of those repetitive jobs are now being done by AI, there's no reason to stay in expensive city centers. So what happens when your population disperses? Well, it changes the way that people relate to one another. It changes the way that communities are built. It changes the way that demographics are handled. You start seeing balkanization of communities, because why not live with the people that you like if you no longer have to live in big cities? So these are all the concerns that are being brought up right now in the Vatican, just a couple of yards away. There are high-level discussions about who do we bring in to have these conversations, not just universal basic income, not just economists, but you have to bring in sociologists, you have to bring in psychologists, you have to bring in experts in AI. It's basically going to touch every part of every human society across the planet.
I just fundamentally don't trust the tech industry to make changes to people's jobs in the way they have in the past. Like, you could say that Amazon and Amazon warehouses have created as many jobs as Amazon took away, but I don't think that people working in Amazon fulfillment centers is a sustainable job. And
well, good. Let the robots have that one. In fact, Amazon's moving rapidly in that direction. Even like as in Jason's article, it says for 24 hours a day, these $10,000 robots will get the job done without bathroom breaks or threatening a union drive. They cost less than $1 an hour. And that's like, this is what the tech companies want, because you can abuse robots in a way that you can't get away with abusing humans. Yeah,
humans have. Sorry about that. My laptop over in the sun.
He's in the shade now.
Now I'm in the shade. If everybody's going to have radical self-reliance, Amanda, this idea that like the corporation is there for you and you're going to be a corporate person for X number of years, that's gone. And
we've been moving in that direction for a while.
And that's where we started, right? Like you there was no concept that the corporation would be with you for your entire life.
Well, there was feudalism, I guess. Yeah.
But now, self-reliance is going to be what it's all about. And these are going to be complicated issues. Andy Jassy wrote a piece this week. And when a CEO writes a manifesto and publishes it to everybody, in the company, and then publishes it publicly before it gets leaked to Amanda and TechCrunch, it's important. And he goes through this, and there's about 24 examples of AI and what they're working on. And in that story, he mentions towards the end that there will be a different footprint of the company. And, in my piece that I wrote on my Substack, I explained, and I haven't written a piece in a long time, years, but I felt like I needed to bring this up because, to your point, Amanda, the tech industry, we just build the most efficient companies with the highest profits that lower the prices for consumers. That's called capitalism. And it's the best system in the world for creating abundance, but it's the most imperfect one. It's just the best one we figured out so far. And when he writes a story like that on the Amazon website, I think this is a way of him preparing investors for higher profits and employees for less jobs. And this is a high and low situation, Leo. You are seeing it in white collar jobs doing chores. So if you were at a company and your job consisted of chores, which is anything other than the core product. So on a podcast, there's somebody who's, the host and they edit it. That's like the core product. But everybody around it, if there's an accountant, a lawyer, an operations person, most of those jobs, which would be defined as chores, things necessary to produce the main thing, those are all going away. And so, and they're going to go away
radical independence or self-sufficiency doesn't answer the question of, well, but how am I going to pay the rent and make a living? I agree. A lot of people do jobs they hate, they don't like, that are demeaning. There isn't a lot of dignity in a lot of jobs, but at the same time, people need to eat.
Yeah, this is my big concern. I think there's a number of people in the tech industry who have hit peak employment. In other words, their job at Google or Amazon that they had for $300,000 a year or something amazing, like they may not be able to find that job as a middle manager. And if you look at companies like Uber, Google, Microsoft, they have less employees now than they did 3 or 4 years ago, and they're making twice as much money.
Well, that's the other side of this. And I think the real issue might end up being all of this really looks like it's not to make society better, but to enrich a small number of people, the executives, the CEOs, the investors, and it's just going to drive income inequality crazy. And I don't think that that's a sustainable way for a society to be run.
It's not.
Every time we've seen that in the past, there's been a guillotine involved.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the thing is, when you hear tech execs talking about radical self reliance, and I understand that need. The problem is they think that only applies to the people. If we move into what looks to be the final destination of AI, corporations will need radical self-reliance in the sense that they will no longer be able to judge their profitability quarter to quarter as the success metric for their companies. If you no longer have the same massive pool of consumers to consume your products and goods, it no longer becomes whether or not you're providing services that people want. It's, do you provide services for the good of that society?
Yeah.
It changes the rules entirely, and they're not looking at that part.
I think they should also be worried about a vast and growing underclass that is not happy.
Precisely. You know what happens
if you're
when
that
people
Uber
can't
driver
afford to eat?
Yeah, there's no. So, I mean, Jason, you say you like the third choice, which is AI vacation. What does that mean?
Well, yeah, and if you look at the end of my story, I show the Waymos burning, and I make father's point here, which is, in Los Angeles, they riot 10 times a year. Anything, Lakers win, any excuse to to riot in LA. In my experience, having lived here for 10 years, but this time they didn't burn the police cars. They summoned the Waymos to their death.
Isn't that interesting?
I think this is like
that's telling.
It's telling, and I like to think that I'm able to pick up on nuance when the Waymos are being called to their death. Like that is a moment in time, and today the Uber the introductory price of the Tesla robotaxis is $4. I think it might be $4.20 actually as a joke. So.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So the price is like $4 for a ride is like a third of what it should cost. So we are going to see prices come down. Prices for food, prices for, everything. Just like we've watched cables and clothes and sneakers, prices come radically down. So there is something for that.
Sustainable pricing though? Because I know I've taken Waymos in San Francisco and I've been there and it seems like they ended up being more expensive than Ubers, but is it going to be a similar situation where the price of stuff is artificially lower to get people to use it, and then because you can't keep doing $4.20 forever, right?
No, I think the prices of these cars, the Cyber Cab, which is the 2-door one, I think they will get that down to $20,000, $25,000 per car, and that's going to be, $2, $3, $4 for an Uber ride. That would normally cost $15 or $20. So yes, that will happen. Absolutely. Those rides will be that cheap. What we should start thinking about is, as a society, is creating more jobs. in places where we need them, and those will be the most human jobs. So one suggestion I have is we go to a 4-day work week for a lot of jobs like, say, teachers or healthcare. If you go to a 4-day work week, that 5th day means you just need 20% more employees, right? If you do more professional training, if we went to a 6-week, if we had 6-week vacations here in the United States versus, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever the standard is, that would create more jobs. So I do think we will get through this, but this is going to be one of the, I think this will be the biggest challenge of our lifetime. And everybody on this call, what we're going to see in the next 10 years will be the biggest challenge of our lifetime. We will see Waymos burned. We will see protests in the streets over this issue. Where's my jobs? And the people, it's happening in China. And I was talking to an executive from one of the, I'll just say top 10, but it's probably even higher, public companies over there. And he said they are slow rolling self-driving there. They're only allowing it in a couple of cities and testing it because the number one job for young men who are 18 to 25 is driving cabs in many of those cities, and other people work in factories, obviously. When you have 18 to 25-year-olds unemployed, if you go look at Greece,
they're the
Spain,
ones who riot.
They riot, yeah. So society will self-correct for this. It's going to be dicey.
But does it look like we're going to do anything about it?
Hold on,
doesn't
some
look
real quick context first, real quick. This is Benito, by the way. Hello, everybody.
Benito grew up in the Philippines
we're burning the Waymos down in LA isn't because that they're AI or taking away jobs. It's because they share data with the LAPD. That's why they burned Waymos.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's also, though, Benito, would you not disagree that there is anti-big tech sentiment as well?
There is, but the reason they burned Waymos specifically is because they shared data with the government.
Mm-hmm. But it's the same. But they were calling them over. And
but the reason they were doing that was because Waymo was sharing data with the LAPD.
Remember, in San Francisco, there were protests against the Google buses, and they were vandalizing the Google buses. I think there's a lot of this is a deep resentment. Not just of AI, but of big tech. And I think it's, look, we've been covering tech my whole life practically. I think something has changed in the point of view. And you say this yourself about yourself, Jason.
Yeah.
You used to be an optimist.
And I still am. And I think we will navigate this. But if you bring up these concerns in my community, like inside the tent, people are like, shh. Let's not.
They don't want you to talk about it.
No. Or worse.
That's because they don't have a solution. By the way, that's not. Yeah. There's no answer to it.
And it's not there. I think there will be answers to it. It just won't be provided by these companies, and they don't see it as their role to solve the problem. Their role is to make the best technology better, faster, cheaper. Better, faster, cheaper.
But see, it needs to be their role to solve the problem because right now they can put a finger on the scale right now, so they can have input into what a reformed society looks like that has AI that has replaced most human jobs. It will get to the point, and this will be after a few quarters of record profits, at which they will no longer have that ability to put that finger. That's when we get into actual violent revolution. And I mean, that used to be a theoretical. That was somewhere down the line, but you can see it now.
Yeah.
And to have a tech bro, a wealthy tech bro tell me, oh, don't worry, we're going to make sure that prices stay low enough so that you can still afford to live when you're living on universal basic income. That is not a promise. That's a threat. That's them telling me at any point, I can take away your ability to live. And that is not a solution. That is 1984. That is a dystopia that people can see a mile away.
Well, this is where radical self-reliance comes in. And I think startups, as crazy as it sounds, will be the solution here. So I've been talking to entrepreneurs in our accelerators and pre-accelerator about, imagine a world where there were tens of thousands of people who are no longer driving Ubers or doing DoorDash. What could you do with that surplus of individual time, creativity, et cetera? And we've seen that over and over again. In fact, the whole gig economy came as a way for people who had to work shift work. And Uber got a lot of criticism for this. I know because I was the third investor and I was right there on the front lines having to answer it constantly. And I said to people, you don't understand. This is not a replacement for the 8-hour shift or 10-hour shift at Walmart or Amazon factory. This is for somebody who's dropping their kids off at school, wants to do 3 or 4 rides, then pick them up and have dinner with them and take them to soccer. They want to work this way, and they will not take these jobs if the other jobs are better. and there's just a natural correcting force, which is what we've seen, right? The whole discussion of like, oh my God, Uber drivers and DoorDash drivers don't make enough money. Now people are looking at those, and Walmart, Target, Starbucks have had to raise the salaries to compete with people who take those jobs. So I think there'll be a cognitive and physical world surplus. What can we do with the surplus? That's the optimist in me. What products or services can we create? And one of them is going to be an aging population. And so you could have young people working to make people who are in retirement, their lives more rich. We could have twice as many doctors, 3 times as many teachers. We could have after school programs. So there'll be all these other opportunities, and people will find them. The transition is what concerns me. And I'm also concerned that people are trying to shut this conversation down. So at least you have one tech bro, Father, who is bringing it up.
There's one of us. There's a couple. Mark Cuban has actually said some absolutely right things. We actually want to invite him over here to be one of our speakers. And I like the way that you're phrasing it. I would take a slightly different approach and say, you have to change the conversation from we're going to make sure that you have enough to live on because that will be provided by UBI, and instead make it a conversation about can we provide you with a more satisfactory, a happier lifestyle, a way of you actually taking pride in the type of work that you do, because those are the jobs that we want humans to have. I want you to feel good about the thing that you are creating. Going back to the Catholic social teaching, if we believe in the innate goodness of work, then let's actually give people the ability to feel good about the work that they're doing. And it no longer becomes about making enough money to survive. It now becomes making a career out of something that you love doing. Now, I know that sounds very hippy dippy, and I know that the tech community won't buy into that, but that's going to lead to a far more satisfied society than we will make sure you don't starve. We make sure that you don't starve is not something that's hopeful.
That's serfdom.
And I think that promise has already been broken. And that if you look at like people that are working full-time as Uber drivers, like even if the intention is that people will give 3 or 4 rides in the middle of the day if they want to make a little bit of extra money, people are having to do gigs like Uber and Instacart full time because they aren't able to find other jobs. And then those jobs become very like difficult because then you have to pay for your car, you have to pay for your gas, you have to pay for your car upgrades. And I think there's already been a lot of discontent around people trying to turn gig work that isn't meant to be full-time work into full-time work. And so I think now that when people see like Waymo and self-driving vehicles encroaching on territory that already was encroached on, I think that does drive some of the anger, because I don't think the public has trust that there will be these new jobs created for them, because then again, it's like people that are working in an Amazon warehouse are being like tracked every second of every day. If they take like 1 second too long of a lunch break, they can get fired. There's like Advil machines in the warehouses because people are working themselves so hard in a way that is like not sustainable. And like, yes, they have options for insurance and they pay more than minimum wage, but like, I think the cost of these jobs is still like people are discontent because
and all that
no fulfillment.
Well, and all that will those jobs are going to be going away. So all this complaining and hand wringing, oh my God, Uber's so terrible, Amazon, these jobs are so terrible. Oh my God, these bosses have been so, intense, or what, or whatever the claims are, and they could be true. And everybody wants a higher salary. That's true as well. Up and down the stack. We're going to look back and be like, oh my God, we had it so good. You could just turn on an app and work and make $20 an hour, $30 an hour, and not have a boss.
Now.
Well, and this is why I keep bringing up radical self-reliance. Yes, your cost of living is going to go down, but you're going to be responsible. And Amanda, you see that working for a private equity firm that owns TechCrunch. They are going to flip and flip and flip, shut things down and sell them. And you cannot rely on your employer for your permanent sustenance in this world. You're going to have to be self-reliant. And you see people doing that now, especially journalism is such a great category for it. You see so many people saying, you know what? I can make more just doing a Substack. All I need is 1,000 real fans to pay me $100 a year. I think I have 1,000 real fans somewhere out there.
So few people can do that, though. I mean, is it education? What do you need to do to make that more realistic? Better education system, free education, free training.
There's a couple of different ways
free
to get there.
healthcare. All that stuff.
I do want to make one point of clarification.
Which we're, by the way, in every respect, we're going backwards on those things, but go ahead.
I don't want this to be a hate fest on tech bros. This trend predates the tech boom. This was McDonald's back when I was growing up, where you had jobs that were supposed to be temporary. These were for high school students. This was just for your first job. That became permanent. That became the breadwinning job for adults. So that may have been accelerated by the tech boom, but that by no means was created by the tech boom.
Yeah, it's been going on for my entire life. Let me take a break, and we will come back. There's lots more to talk about. These are good subjects. This is deep stuff that we do need to talk about, and we need to address and solve. And we need to do it pretty damn quickly, because I have a feeling we're not headed in the right direction. Jason, it's always great to see you. Jason Calacanis is here from the All In podcast. He's slumming. It's okay. It's okay. We'll accept it.
I'm home.
He's home. We'll accept it.
He has to stay out of the sun.
Yes.
His laptop will open.
Irish.
It's a good Irish boy. He's got to stay out of the sun. Father Robert Ballecer, he's in the dark because it's late night in Italy. What time is it?
11:51 p.m.
Well, we'll get you out of here by 3 or 4 in the morning, I promise.
Yeah,
and Amanda Silberling, who is in Philly, senior culture writer at the TechCrunch. Are you an Eagles fan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a baseball person. Like, I'm a big Phillies fan. And then I feel like the Eagles, like, I've never been a huge football person, but living in Philadelphia, it's like you have to be knowing things. Like,
when Jason was talking about rioting in LA, I was thinking after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they greased the telephone poles downtown so people wouldn't climb up them.
Yeah, but then there was a festival recently in the Italian market area of Philly where they have like all like the local vendors and stuff out. But then one of the parts of the festival was that they greased a pole and had a pole greased climbing contest.
Yeah, well, you got to train. You got to train if you're going to be ready for the next Super Bowl. You got to train. Great to have all three of you. We appreciate it. Our show today brought to you by Spaceship. This is, I don't know, Jason, you probably don't know about this company. It is very, very cool. Why do you assume? Why does one assume? Why do we assume that simple and affordable has to mean basic and only for beginners? Geeks, tech professionals want to save time and money too, right? Spaceship is the best looking, most sophisticated domain and web platform out there. Take a look at the website. It takes the pain out of choosing, purchasing, and managing domain names and web products like they've got it all shared hosting, virtual machines, business email. With Spaceship, you not only enjoy intuitive domain management, but you also benefit from substantial savings on renewal fees. They actually have below market prices on domains. You transfer your domain to Spaceship. You don't have to wait for expiration. And once the transfer is complete, 1 year is automatically added to your current registration, so you don't lose time and you save money. And by the way, they make it, whenever somebody says, oh, just move your domain, I go, oh, no, I've done that before. No, they make it easy. The transfer process is straightforward. You can complete it within 30 minutes in many cases. Plus, you're going to get that complimentary 1 year subscription to Space Mail, providing you with a professional business email address as well. So they've got below market prices for domain registrations and renewals. They also have some pretty fresh ways to make life easier, even for us geeks. For instance, Unbox, for connecting your Spaceship products to your domain and configuring it all in just a few steps. One of the really cool features Spaceship just added is the ability to do secure messaging where your login isn't your phone number or some name, it's a domain. So I registered leos.im at spaceship.com. By the way, it was $4. And then with Unbox, it was immediately connected to the messaging system. You can message me with Thunderbolt at leos.im, which is about the coolest thing ever. In fact, a couple of people have done it lately. That is really neat. And Unbox made it very simple. Now, if you want to do something a little more complicated, they've got Alf, who is not an alien, but your own AI assistant for making life easy. The Alf can do domain transfers, update DNS records. Alf loves the stuff you probably do not. I know how to do it, but boy, it's sure nice to let Alf do it. They also, and this is how Thunderbolt came about, they have a roadmap where you can go, you can explore their potential future. Customers in the tech community get what they really need, and you get to participate. To discover how much you could save compared to your current registrar, visit spaceship.com/twit and follow the link at the top of the page. Ready to switch and save? Transfer your domain to Spaceship today. Spaceship.com/twit. Tell me how you like it. You can use Thunderbolt to message me securely, by the way, end-to-end encrypted at leos.im.
Good pricing.
Isn't that a good idea? Leos.im.
Great idea.
It was like $4. I couldn't believe it. It's because I control the DNS, right? It proves that I own that. So it's totally secure. It's a brilliant idea. Anyway, spaceship.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Tech. Well, in case you didn't notice, there's a little bit of a kerfuffle going on in the Middle East right now, and our thoughts and prayers go out to Gali and others of our family who are in the Middle East. Gali is in, I think, Tel Aviv right now, which means she's being bombarded as we speak. But the war is not just kinetic. It is, in fact, the first real cyber war. Israel, this is from Wired, Andy Greenberg writing, Israel-tied predatory Sparrow hackers are waging cyber war on Iran's financial system. They actually were able to attack the Sepah Bank and destroy $90 million at an Iranian crypto exchange, Nobitex. In fact, it got so bad, Iran actually took itself off the internet because they couldn't thwart these attacks. This might, I mean, we've seen certain amounts of cyber warfare in the past. This might be the first time that we're seeing the real deal. Iran has restricted internet access to ward off those attacks. People in the country are having difficulty accessing websites and messaging apps. This is the problem now. I mean, warfare has changed very much, and technology is being used in new and different ways. I guess there's not much to say about it except
that it's a good thing that we fired the most competent professional in the cyber industry from his government job, took away his security credentials so that he can't consult, and made sure that any of his work was deleted.
You talking about Christopher Krebs?
Yeah, that was smart. That was smart.
Yeah. And CISO is underfunded now. Apparently nobody can present somebody that Trump likes for director of the NSA. So there is no director of the NSA.
Well, maybe he'll find a grocer or another gardener to put in the position.
It's not good. It puts us a little bit vulnerable, right? And by the way, the Chinese are still in our telecom system, and our major telecom carriers say, yeah, we can't do anything about it.
Well, it's a forklift. It would be a forklift upgrade. Yes. This is not a software patch. You'd have to rip out billions of dollars worth of hardware, which was not designed to be ripped out. You'd have to redo infrastructure, and you'd have to do it in such a way that there's no advanced persistent threats left behind. I mean, we did a session on this at DEF CON last year, and we couldn't come up with even a theoretical way to do this cleanly.
The telecom people say we would have to take the entire American telecom system down for a day or two. Imagine the chaos to make these fixes. But
that'd be a great day for America, though. Can you imagine a day without cell phones?
It might change some habits. Yeah,
please. Can we do it for 48 hours?
They'd have to shut the market. They'd have to shut the market down, right? Because nobody can trade.
Yeah, a long weekend. Let's go. I'm here for it. I'm going whitewater rafting over the summer, and I do it every year. And I was like, should I bring the Starlink Mini? Should I get one of those? And everybody was like, no. This is when the kids are offline. Disconnect. And
disconnect.
I'm like,
You remember, every year I disconnect for 8 days. Nothing. There's no.
But you have to. That's part of your.
That's part
calling,
of my thing,
right? Yeah.
And the first day, it's like going through withdrawals. It's like being a junkie. I'm always reaching for my phone and realize, I don't have it. I don't have a connect. I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't have a laptop. But by day 3, I'm thinking, why in the world am I going to reconnect? It's so much better. I have so much less stress. And then I get to the end of the retreat and I go, let's find out what's happening on Netflix.
Well, that ties to the next story, which is streaming is now the king of TV. For the first time ever, last month, more Americans watched streaming than cable and network television combined.
Wow.
I'm actually only surprised that we didn't hit that point a while back. I mean, I guess it was the older generations that were keeping the average on the connected side, but you know, the cord cutter generation arrived in force a long time ago. That's all I've got. This house right now, we have no cable, we have no satellite. Everything is delivered over the internet.
Yeah, same for us too. We disconnected unfortunately, it's still cable because Comcast is the only provider we can get.
The rub.
This is just about boomers, right? And like this is about the paradigm shift because you know, if you're locked into DirecTV or, you know, my parents, whatever, it's like to get them on YouTube TV or Hulu or whatever solution it is. I have actually both of those now because when I was traveling, I'm trying to VPN in to watch the Knicks game. And I had to like figure out how to VPN into my home in Texas so that I could trick these folks into thinking that I was watching it, you know.
I'm home, man. I'm home.
Because
we all love that cat and mouse game, right? Come on, the geo-restricted content.
You're traveling. Yeah, it's so annoying.
Tail scale, baby. That's the solution.
There you go.
You
YouTube.
know, my 80-year-old parents cut the cord this year.
Oh, wow.
80-year-old parents.
What?
I never thought it would happen. Yeah,
Wow.
They are completely off. Now, the downside is they really got down the rabbit hole on YouTube with the fake videos. Because where they live, they get pitched all the time. So I actually had to turn on, don't tell them this, family control on their accounts. So I could ban those those AI slop channels because they just keep running. They keep running.
Yeah.
There's also Gen X here, by the way. Like a lot of Gen X, the older Gen X are stuck on cable. Like my mom cut her cord before my sisters did.
Yeah.
What?
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Older viewers, this is from the New York Times. It's no surprise that younger viewers are the first to jump to streaming. Another group has made the leap as well. Viewers over the age of 65. Older viewers watch a lot of television, more than any other group. 1/3 of all viewing comes from people over 65. And they've been moving to streaming in droves over the last few years. Since 2023, viewers over 65 are the fastest growing age group for watching YouTube on the TV. Not on a phone or on a computer, but on the television.
Yeah, that's what changed it for my mom. I taught her how to stream it through a Chromecast, and it blew her mind. And like that changed everything for her.
Oh, this is all I need.
The only reason my parents didn't cut the cord 5 years ago was because my mom is addicted to Jeopardy. And NBC
But you can watch it on Peacock
very
now.
wisely made it impossible to subscribe to something that will give you live Jeopardy. But then I wrote a script to download all those freely uploaded Jeopardy episodes so she can watch them when she wants.
I watch Jeopardy on Peacock without the ads. I love it.
That was for you too, Amanda, Jeopardy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, don't tell the Google overlords, but you can share a YouTube TV account. So I have a YouTube TV account shared among like 5 people. So I pay
That's family. They're the family.
Yeah.
They don't have to be living with you to be your family.
All right.
Modern family's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I was kicked off of the family Netflix. So.
My daughter, my 32-year-old daughter is still on the family Netflix.
Yeah, I finally.
I don't have the heart
like,
to fire her.
Maybe I should make I was fired from it by Netflix.
Oh, Netflix. The password sharing thing, they caught on, huh?
Yeah, because they're like,
problems
hey,
with Netflix.
you live in a different state than your parents. Why are you on their Netflix?
That's a problem,
and I'm like,
yeah.
I guess I can be a big girl and pay for my own Netflix, but
I
no,
set up.
So I never had cable like as an adult, but I tried getting one of those little cable box things that like gets the satellite. I don't know how that kind of stuff works.
Oh, the HD broadcast TV.
Yeah. I tried getting one of those specifically because I wanted to watch Jeopardy. But then it did not work very well. And then my friends were like, what if we split a YouTube TV account?
There you go.
Now I watch Jeopardy. I watch the Phillies. I have the TV viewing habits of a middle-aged man. It's great.
I had to set up a dual connection at my parents' house because I have monitoring devices in case they have a fall, and it always makes sure that I can get in. The problem is, every once in a while, the primary connection, which is, I think, Spectrum Link, goes down and it switches over to the backup link. And every time it does that, their Netflix account thinks that they're sharing from a different house. So then I have to go back in and so yeah, it's not seamless, but it works kind of well.
Netflix is tearing families apart.
It's not just Jeopardy. You ever hear, Amanda, of a show called Gunsmoke?
No, but
featuring a young Clint Eastwood as Rowdy Yates. It is a Western. It premiered before I was born in 1955, went off the air in 1975. It is, according to the New York Times, making regular appearances in Nielsen's most watched streaming series over the last few months.
I would think it would be Bonanza instead of Gunsmoke.
Oh, Gunsmoke's much better than Bonanza. As long as it's not Little House on the Prairie, I'm okay.
You can get the detective show. You know, my wife, she says I'm a nudge.
Columbo.
You can get the one with the guy who smokes the cigar in the trench coat. That one's
D.
pretty
Clare
good
has
too.
collected me. Rowdy Yates was on Rawhide. Gunsmoke was a different
Columbo is so great.
Columbo's excellent.
They had like a whole series of Columbos, like into the 80s, early 90s, where, you know, he would do these like specials. It wasn't like a series. It was like, you know, short series, 1.5 hour, 1 hour, 20-minute episodes. And they all are around, they pivot around new technologies in society. So one of them was pivoted around
the fax machine.
The fax machine. One of them was a pager. So they literally had one where a guy had bought his wife a pager. He had a pager. I won't spoil it. And another one was based on speeding cameras. And the speeding camera they had featured in it, like, used actual film. So like the film was developed and they're showing like this camera. It was almost like they went to CES and went to the back where all the Taiwanese small boots are. And they're like, the writers were like, let's make a show about that. The speeding camera is going to be huge. It's hilarious.
Jason, if you like Columbo, you have to watch a movie from the 80s called Strange Vibes that had Peter Falk, it had Jeff Goldblum, and it had Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, perfect.
What?
That's a movie.
It's a horrible movie, but it's kind of fun.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. Cyndi Lauper in her network debut, in her movie debut.
All right. We better take another break before this gets out of hand. Great to have all three of you. More news coming up. You're watching This Week in Tech, brought to you by US Cloud. They are the #1 Microsoft Unified Support replacement. And when I first talked to them, we've been doing the ads now for a while, so I think most of you are probably familiar with this. When I first talked to them, I said, what do you do? Are you a cloud company? No. We're the global leader in third-party Microsoft support for enterprises. They support 50 of the Fortune 500. And there's a good reason for it, because switching to US Cloud can save your business 30 to 50% over Microsoft Unified and Premier support. Now, that wouldn't be any good if it were just less expensive. It's better as well. In fact, twice as fast average time to resolution versus Microsoft. And they've got SLAs to back that. And it turns out their name isn't so confusing, because now US Cloud is going to do something Microsoft would never do: help you save money on Azure. They have an Azure cost optimization service. Now, this is, I think, pretty common. Certainly has been my experience. When was the last time you evaluated your Azure usage, right? Do you really think about it? If it's been a while, you probably have what we call in the business a little Azure sprawl, a little spend creep going on. Well, the good news is, thanks to US Cloud, saving on Azure is easier than you think. US Cloud offers an 8-week Azure engagement. It's powered by VBox. And what it'll do is identify key opportunities to reduce costs across your entire Azure environment. And by the way, you're going to get expert guidance from US Cloud's senior engineers, the best in the business, an average of over 16 years with Microsoft products. At the end of the 8 weeks, your interactive dashboard will have big, bold letters: rebuild and downscale opportunities, unused resources. And now you can reallocate those precious IT dollars towards things you really need, or If you want to keep the savings going, you could invest your Azure savings in US Cloud's Microsoft support and keep saving. There's an idea. Completely eliminate your Microsoft unified spend. I think that's what Sam did. He's the technical operations manager at Bede Gaming, BEDE. He gave US Cloud 5 stars and this quote, "We found some things that have been running for 3 years, which no one was checking. These VMs were, I don't know, 10 grand a month, not a massive chunk in the grand scheme of how much we spend on Azure. But, once you get to $40,000 or $50,000 a month, it really starts to add up." Really? It's simple. Stop overpaying for Azure, identify and eliminate Azure creep, and boost your performance all in 8 weeks with US Cloud. Visit uscloud.com and book a call today to find out how much your team can save. That's uscloud.com to book a call today and get faster Microsoft support for less, better too. uscloud.com. Book a call today. Faster Microsoft support for less. Thank you, US Cloud, for your support of our program. Jason Calacanis, Father Robert Ballecer, and Amanda Silberling. All three of you have gone through some changes. Amanda, Jason was referring to this earlier. TechCrunch has a new owner.
Yep.
How's that been for you? It's okay. You can talk. They're not listening. They're not listening.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
Let me quote Jason's co-host on the TWiT, Alex Wilhelm. He said, "I didn't want to talk about this, but let me tell you. I mean, he was glad. He's glad he's out of TechCrunch, isn't he, Jason?"
I think TechCrunch has got a great legacy. Things trade in the market, like brands like that, and every brand has a season. And some owners, new owners cherish the brand and invest in it. Other ones don't. We've seen a bunch of the Ziff titles, PC Magazine.
Oh yeah. This is the way of the world, again. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, publishing is one of these very unique things. You need to have an impresario, a person who actually cares.
Mike Arrington?
Mike Arrington, a Leo Laporte, whatever it happens to be, somebody who actually just wants to be the steward of the brand and say, this brand stands for this. This is what we cherish, as opposed to just the bean counters. And, that's always the challenge when things.
Well, especially when private equity comes in, because basically by definition, aren't they bean counters? I mean, isn't that exactly what they are?
Literally, the job of private equity is to buy something at a low price, race down the costs and race up the revenue as much as you can, put some debt on it, and then sell it. And, it's somebody else's problem. Of course, then, if you have great writers or great talent, they are just cogs in the wheel, right? This is why I always think, when I'm talking to individual contributors like Amanda or Alex Wilhelm, build a brand.
Self-reliance. Radical self-reliance.
Yeah. It is a slightly refined version of the old corporate raiders from the 80s. It's
totally
the same. Yeah, it's the same theory.
Go to spaceship.com and /twit and get yourself a domain and set it up and get your own landing page.
What is it? Amanda OMG LOL. I love it.
Yeah.
Same. Set up your Thunderbolt, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is kind of like a weird place to be in journalism, where like you have people like Alex Wilhelm, who works with Jason now, who is like doing his own thing, but like, I mean, radical self-reliance, but I'm like, when I started in tech journalism, Alex Wilhelm was already like Alex Wilhelm.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, you sort of need, or maybe not need, but I guess the way I see it is like, people know my writing because I write for TechCrunch, and then you sort of have to build a brand off of that and like build a readership off of that. And it would be cool if one day people wanted to read my writing enough that they would pay specifically for my writing. But I guess for now, the private equity overlords are somehow making my paychecks. And it is kind of something that it's been this way in journalism forever, where like, I don't know where I'm going to be working in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I would hope that it's still TechCrunch if that's still a job that is available. But you always kind of have to think about like building your own sort of brand and like IP. And like, I have a podcast that I do that's like separate from TechCrunch.
What's that? Tell us about that.
Wow If True. It is an internet culture podcast that I host with my friend Isabel Kim, who's a sci-fi author. And we talk about generally just internet culture, how the internet is impacting our lives. And it's similar to my beat at TechCrunch, but a lot sillier and off the cuff more so, but
more personal, right? Which is good.
So I feel like that's kind of why a lot of people, even if they haven't made the full jump to being independent, or like, honestly, like, I don't think I could do that yet, although maybe I'm not being radically self-reliant enough, but hopefully one day. But I think a lot of people kind of are like laying the groundwork for, in case this like new ownership doesn't work out, do I have something of my own that I can try to like keep doing
Amanda,
what I'm doing.
It's not as scary as it might seem. There's a really brilliant guy, Kevin Kelly. And
love him.
Yeah, he's really thoughtful. And he wrote the 1,000 True Fans concept. And that always stuck with me. From, I don't know, maybe he wrote it 20 years ago. I put the link in the chat room there for when he wrote it down. But he was talking about it long before he wrote it. And it's a very simple concept. You have your podcast. Are you collecting emails, phone numbers? Do you know those people? Do you reply to them? And so over time, if you have those 1,000 true fans, and the concept's pretty simple, if you're a comedian and you have 1,000 true fans, 100 will show up for you and you can make a living. You can pay your rent. And so again, we can sit here and hand wring about, how dynamic the world is and how fast the pace is changing. But we have to give advice to people. So as a, somebody who is your senior journalist who started in the 90s, and Leo who started in 1937.
30s, yeah.
Yeah, he was doing it on tablets, actually. Him and Moses were doing the top 10 news stories on tablets. You're chiseling it.
This just in, the wheel has been invented in Hungary. I don't know. This is why
so many journalists end up doing in-house communications for large tech companies, because
they go to the dark side. They go to PR. Yeah.
That's why I'm going to go work for the in-house communications department at Intel. I've heard that's got a future.
Not a good idea.
No.
Not a good idea.
There's a new cruise line where I think you could do better. It's the Titanic. It's a year back and forth. It does great. It's got great service.
I hear they're unsinkable. Yeah.
Well, and just today, right? Because they announced that they're going to destroy the in-house. They're removing the in-house communications team, and they're going to move everything to Accenture and AI. So it's like, oh, right. Well, yeah.
Every job, I'm working with founders. And so, every time there's an innovation or a change like this, it's an opportunity. Chaos is a ladder, right? The chaos that we're experiencing is the opportunity. Now, somebody with a big heart and who's thoughtful, like Father here, is always going to think about the meek, the poor. Like that is what we do as Christians, correct?
Because not everybody can become a brand, right?
No, but
by the way, if everybody became a brand would be meaningless.
But everybody can learn incremental skills, right? And that's what we have to do, is start empowering people and giving them that motivation to try to learn something, right? And teach a man to fish, right? Not just give them a fish. And so I think this is the high order bit. And what I see in startups, because startups are resource constrained, and my day job is not all in, it's investing in 100 companies a year. Startups in the first year of their existence, we call it year zero. And we are seeing them do with 3 people what startups used to do with 12. So a modern app company, if you were launching the Calm
app. Is that because of AI?
Yes. So a lot of the functions that you would hire now are available either as abstracted SaaS products or services. They're available, through Fiverr or some other service. And all those services are abstracted away and cheaper because of massive competition. Cloud hosting, domain names, like we're hearing here, support, all of those things are examples of better, cheaper, faster. So the cost is just coming down so fast, and you're able to do so much more with less. I think we'll see, I know this sounds crazy, but, perhaps in the next 10 years, 20 times the number of startups formed, because so many people are going to get out of school, not be able to have a job, but they will have skills. And they're going to sit there and say, well, what do we do? And in the past, it was start a rock band, start a zine, put up a website, start a consulting firm, an agency. that radical self-reliance is going to become more and more necessary. 2 or 3 of your friends with skills start something. You did it, Amanda, with a podcast. Now what you have to do with that podcast is just collect emails. Once you've collected emails, then you just have to say, we're looking for 100 patrons to put in $100 each to do this special series, and just get 1 or 2 of those per week each with your co-hosts. And it will
People
work.
are talking about this solo unicorn.
Yeah.
You think there hasn't been one yet, has there?
There's arguably one. Well, no,
it's going to be you, Amanda.
It's a duo unicorn.
You actually could say Joe Rogan, who has a small number of employees, honestly, is maybe the first one trending towards that. There's a company called DistroKid that my friend Phil Kaplan did, which was only a handful of people. Pud, yeah, from Eft Company.
He was always lazy. Pud,
yes.
Pud's. I remember Pud telling me, whatever you do, make a website that you can walk away from and it'll continue to make incremental income
he's
forever.
A genius. Yeah,
so he's the guy who did Eft Company, and that was a good little moneymaker for some time. I'm sure.
DistroKid lets you upload your album if you're not signed by a label, and then get it onto Spotify and other places. And it's just a monthly subscription, and it's something everybody needs who's a musician. And there's a lot more musicians.
That's cool.
There's a long tail of them. So again, back to self-reliance. You look at what's happening on Patreon. You look at what's happening on YouTube. People are able to make small amounts of money and growing. Now, not everybody's going to be a content creator, but I do think there'll be a lot of interesting opportunities there for small business creation.
This doesn't super sound like self-reliance, though, because you're relying on Patreon, you're relying on Google, you're relying on these giant corporations.
Well, you know what? Though,
those are just
those
tools.
Are empowering technologies that make it possible.
Tools. Yeah, you're not. And there's so many options. Yeah.
You're not wandering off into the desert and making a living without any help of any kind. It's not
the paradigm of teaching Amanda fish. Naturally, I'm going to be a big fan of that. That's my
Amanda.
thing.
Do you know how to fish? Not that Amanda. I'm sorry.
We're telling people to teach. We're telling that we're going to teach people how to fish, while the wealthy are in the same waters with fishing trawlers. I mean, it's like,
that's a good point. Yeah,
radical self-reliance works as long as everyone's got their own little pond, but we don't. So,
doesn't it rely on a certain amount of scarcity too? You can't have everybody be a success, or can you? Could you have a million creators, a billion creators?
Define success. Like, is success being able to pay your rent and raise your family and have a 6-week vacation? For many people, it is, and I think that is an important question for each person to ask them. What is success for me? And so, I think people are a little caught up in the outliers of success, seeing people become billionaires, et cetera. It becomes people's obsession, when really their obsession should be, what skills do I have? What unique ideas do I have? What can I build? And having that self-reliance and motivation to learn new skills. Every skill is available to be taught to you on the internet, by YouTube, AI, free courseware.
It's true. It's a lot easier than it used to be.
Only have the motivation.
Yeah. My son taught himself to cook from YouTube. He watched YouTube cooking videos, religiously growing up. Yeah. And of course, that's what he's doing.
So many.
But see, this is I think a fallacy though. Like, he didn't teach himself. All those people on YouTube taught him.
Well, yeah, but we're not proposing that you live in a vacuum.
Yeah, or
we are still in a society. I think it's look, I understand there are going to be people who, for whatever reason, we call them 9-to-5ers. There are people in the world who just want a job. They can work 9 to 5. They don't want investment in it. They don't want to invest any extra effort into it. They just want to go make a paycheck and come home. I would guess that's probably the majority of people. Are you saying that class of worker is out of luck?
No.
Yes.
Can't be.
Well,
I think they are.
Can't be.
That's a bad sign. I mean, I think
they're going to have
class
challenges.
Of worker is out of luck. That society crumbles eventually. It has to happen. So you need to be able to develop a society that can both allow that 9-to-5er who just wants to be able to kick back with a brew on the weekend to live a comfortable life, and at the same time inspire people who maybe
it's
not
good
for the
advice,
profit, but want to do something wonderful.
Yeah, it's good advice to say, if you can, don't be a 9-to-5er, but not everybody has the capability or even the desire to do that.
The motivation's the key there. I think some people are, like you're saying, they want to work 9 to 5. They're not motivated to do
a lot of people. Most of the people I know are very happy to, be a mailman or whatever. I agree that work, it gives you dignity, that work gives your life meaning, that your work should be something that is meaningful to you, but not everybody has that luxury. That seems like look, it's what I taught my kids. It's what I did, is I always pursued meaning and satisfaction, not money. And it worked out okay for me, but I don't think it's going to always work out that way for everybody. I have a very privileged background. If you come from privilege, it's not such a stretch to say okay, you're going to make it. I had a good education. I had parents who were supportive. I didn't have trauma in my youth. There's a lot of people who don't have that luxury. The majority, I would guess.
Everybody starts at a different starting line, right? So,
right.
Right. It's some people further back than others.
One of the reasons TechCrunch got sold is, according to the Register, the apocalypse, or they call it the AI apocalypse, is here for websites. Search referrals are plummeting. This is thanks to I would say, to people like me who don't use Google search anymore. I use Perplexity. I think AI search, that's why Google added these AI overviews. Based on a data from 70 individuals that Kevin Indig studied, who writes about SEO, he said outbound click rates, when AI overviews are absent on Google, outbound click rates go up by a significant portion. But as soon as Google pushed out AI overviews, clicks went down about 35%. This is according to Ahrefs, an SEO site. SimilarWeb reported that search referrals to top U.S. travel and tourism has fallen 20% year over year. News and media sites, traffic dropped 17% year over year. E-commerce down 9%, finance 7%, food, drink 7%, lifestyle, fashion 5%. This isn't because we're not going to these sites. Well, it is because we're not going to these sites. It's because we're reading AI overviews instead of going to these sites. We're getting their information, but it's been scraped from them. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, internally, we do see this reflected in at least how our own traffic is going. But I think this is also why in this day and age in journalism, you can't really just be like a website that publishes stuff, because if you are relying specifically on the one stream of income of, I want people to click on this article because then they'll see an ad that's displayed alongside it, and then the advertisers will be happy and give me money, that's just one way of making money, and it's one that tends to be volatile. So I don't know. I mean, maybe one of the reasons that TechCrunch is still hanging in there is because we do have an events business. But I mean, I think this is also why we've seen a lot of publications try doing subscription models. But
Jason, would you start Weblogs Inc. today?
Yeah, I would. I'm a glutton for punishment. I love content, but this is going to be solved.
For those who don't know, Jason created Weblogs Inc. Originally, what it was what was it called? The Reporter, not Silicon Valley,
I had Silicon Alley Reporter. Then I did Weblogs, and then Engadget, Autoblog, Joystick, all those. Yeah. The search referral traffic was a major part of everybody's business then. It's how people discovered stuff. It was your number one way to get traffic. There are going to be a lot of settlements here. Disney is suing one of the image companies,
Midjourney.
New York Times,
because they've got Darth Vader in there.
OpenAI. And so these, I'll tell you, the content companies are going to win these suits. I'm going to guarantee.
You think so?
100%.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, it's 100%.
I don't know if I hope so. I hope so for the content companies, but on the other hand, I think there's also a First Amendment right to read. We've talked about it on this show before.
Yeah.
Are the AIs doing anything different than you or I would be? Let's say I, as somebody who loves Star Wars, looked at a lot of Star Wars and started drawing pictures of Darth Vader.
Yeah. In a non-commercial way, you doing that personally is a non-issue. But when you're a company charging a subscription, it is an issue.
That's what makes it different.
That's the difference. And the opportunity to create derivative works lies with the IP holder, not some third party. Therefore, if Disney were to open up in Disney Plus the ability to Jedi me and make you into a Jedi character, now they would be able to say, hey, Midjourney is taking our business, and they will launch that product. New York Times will have an AI chatbot soon, I understand, and they can then make that direct correlation. Look,
but does it? So here's my, and Sam Altman, I think, said this: if you only allow AIs to train on public domain information, you're not going to get very good AIs.
And that's their challenge. That is not the fault of the New York Times or any content creator. They still have the sovereignty to do what they want with their data. And the way this will all work out here in the West, in China, there'll be a free-for-all. But we invested in a company called Created by Humans. I put it into the Zoom chat if you want to see it. And there are going to be clearinghouses. And what these clearinghouses will do is you'll be able to take the TWiT archive and everything on the network and say, hey, and you might have to look for like created by humans .ai. And so created by humans.ai is going to, you could put TWiT into there and say, these are what you can do. You can train, and this is the cost. And there'll be a robot.txt version that will be robot AI.txt, right? Robot AI.txt. And the industry will soon have its own standards of what you can train on, what you can't, and what the costs are. Just like Creative Commons has many different licenses, there'll be an AI license for training.
And this can work for both sides. It won't be so prohibitively expensive. AIs could afford it. And because I think an AI should be trained on every published work. I think AI should be trained on the New York Times. It should be trained on everything. That's how an AI becomes useful. I understand the rights holders don't like it. The New York Times is claiming you can reconstruct the New York Times, that nobody will read the New York Times because OpenAI ingested them. That's not the case.
Well, here's the opportunity, Leo. What if ChatGPT, which just gave $6.5 billion to Johnny Ive, what if they said, we're going to give 10% of our yearly revenue, which at this point would be $1 billion, and we're going to share it with content creators. And we're just asking content creators to give us a direct feed, and they'll get a fee, and then we'll have the exclusive to it. So when you go to Perplexity, it'll say, oh, you want New York Times? We don't have the license for that. And then when you go to ChatGPT, in their marketing, they'll say, with the New York Times, with the Wall Street Journal, and with Disney, and you'll pick. Now, that will be a bummer in some ways because it'll be balkanized, but this could totally, and I predict it will, reinvigorate the industry.
So Creative by Humans is working with the Authors Guild. So you're basically trying to get these kinds of licensing rights for books.
Yeah, and then it will go to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, podcasts, et cetera. And there'll be many clearinghouses. You'll be able to pick them just like ASCAP.
It seems sensible, actually. It seems like a good solution.
And it's an opportunity for people. It's an opportunity to differentiate their products.
It doesn't solve the search engine problem, but it does solve the ingesting
Do you know what it would do for TechCrunch if they made $10 million a year from licensing? That's literally 100 journalists getting paid $100,000 a year.
Reddit's been doing that. Reddit's been selling off its...
And Quora. Is making big money, I understand. Reddit's making big money. This will be the future.
I mean, they're legislating this right now in the UK. This is the use and access bill that they're debating. And basically the only argument that they can make pro AI is to say, well, AI can't properly develop if you don't just let them have access to everything. Right. Which is that's not an argument. That's a whine. That's basically saying, well, you know what? It would be a lot easier for me as a real estate developer to make money if you just gave me the land for free. But no.
I just hope that people are able to have the option of deciding if they want to license their works or not, which is, I mean, I am just looking at this Created by Humans for the first time. But yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to license their works and they can get compensated for it, then that's great. But as it stands right now, people are having their books being used as training data and getting no compensation at all, which I think is where a lot of the angst is coming from.
Yeah. Mastodon has updated its terms to prohibit people from training AI models on Mastodon. X is automatically using your tweets for grok, right? For XAI.
I would think so, and I think Reddit has the right. So any community you're part of, you're going to have to make that decision if you want to give them a worldwide perpetual license to your content, and that's like the deal you have to make. Some people don't want to put their content on YouTube because they don't want to give them a license to use it, et cetera. But the problem with the training is once you give the license, cat's out of the bag. You can't really rip it out that easily.
Right.
Is the problem. But all these people will be sued, and they will be sued successfully.
Just FYI, one of the things that we've been doing is been looking at the sources, the high quality sources, so published sources that the Catholic Church controls across our universities and the history and the archives. It comes up to about 4 exabytes.
Wow.
That would be a fantastic cache on which to train an AI. An LLM with access to that much high quality, vetted and peer reviewed sources would actually make for a really, really good LLM. Just saying. Just want to put that out there.
Absolutely.
Let's take a break. More to come. This is a very smart panel. It's nice to have you. And I'm glad that you're going to teach Amanda to fish. I think that's really good, Father Robert.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're all going to go on a nice fishing trip after we're done recording.
I just throw a stick of dynamite into the pond.
It's like shooting a fish in a barrel with dynamite.
That's what I do in the Zelda games, but that's not real life.
Hey, did you get the Switch 2, Miss Zelda fan? Are you going to upgrade?
I haven't bought it yet, but I'm kind of like, on one hand, I don't immediately need it, but I know I'm going to buy it eventually. So I'm like, shouldn't I just get it? Like, it's not
going to go down in price, I don't think. I think this is,
I mean, thank you to my private equity overlords. I do have the $500, but I don't know. I feel like I know I'm going to buy it at some point. So I'm like, it doesn't really matter.
Give everybody at TechCrunch a Nintendo Switch fund so everybody can get one?
They should. I mean, you know.
I'll tell you, my Switch saved me during COVID. I was Animal Crossing saved my life during COVID. That's
UBC, Universal Basic Console. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's it. UBC.
Yeah, I'm down. UBC. I did get to test the Switch 2, but they don't let you take those home at the Nintendo events. But I have played it.
Nice.
Which is not as impressive anymore now that it is a publicly released item.
Well, not everybody has one. I keep going into the stores looking for them, but
over here we have some good family men who ran across a truck of 4,000 Switch 2s. So
hey,
I mean,
it fell off a truck. What do you want? I got a good deal on them. Does it come with Mario World though? That's the thing. I need that. This episode of This Week in Tech brought to you by this cool little thing. My camera's off, so I can't show you, but it's the coolest little thing ever. It's my Thinks Canary. What it is a honeypot. So I remember talking to Bill Cheswick, who wrote the first honeypot, and he said, these are really hard to implement. It's hard to implement a honeypot that fools hackers, that is legit, that doesn't let hackers get out of the honeypot into your stuff, and it doesn't become, in other words, a security risk. Well, these guys at Thinks Canary have done it all for you. They for years trained companies and governments how to break into systems. They know exactly what hackers are looking for. So they've created a honeypot that can impersonate almost anything. Easy to set up. You can deploy it in minutes. I'm right now on the Thinks Canary configuration site. So I'll show you. Right now it's a Windows server. This little box is about the size of an external USB drive is a Windows server, but look what I can turn it into. I can make it an IAS server. I can make it a Linux server, CentOS, Linux, or Oracle Enterprise server. I can make it a Mac OS X file share. But you can even make it kind of a Dell switch, a FortiGate router. You can make it a MikroTik router. You can even make it a SCADA device. I'm going to turn mine into a Hirschman RS-20 industrial switch, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever it is you want to make it, it sits there and is completely indistinguishable from the real thing. It's got the right MAC address. It's got the right login. The other thing you can do with your Thinks Canary is create these Canary tokens. These are files that you can distribute anywhere. These tokens can be anything: an AWS API key, a Word document, a WireGuard VPN configuration. You can even make it a credit card and then put it on your Google Drive or somewhere. The minute somebody accesses it, they don't get access to your bank account. They let you know they're in your system. If someone's accessing these lure files or brute forcing your fake, I don't know, it's make it an internal SSH server, something like that, you're going to immediately get a notification from your Thinks Canary that says, you've got a problem. There's somebody in your network. doing stuff you don't want them to do. No false alerts, just the alerts that matter. And any way you want. Text message, email, Slack, web. They support webhooks. They have an API, syslog, of course. So you get any way you want. I never get alerts. When I do, though, that is a sign that something's going on. Just choose a profile for your Things Canary device, register it with a hosted console for monitoring and notifications, and then you sit back, you relax. Now, how many Things Canaries you get really depends on the size of your operation. Some big banks might have hundreds of them scattered all over the network. You don't want just one. You want one in every kind of segment, everywhere, every little nook and cranny that a hacker might be looking around in. Small business like ours, maybe a handful of them. I'll give you an example. If you go to canary.tools/twit, let's say you want 5 Things Canaries, $7,500 a year for the whole year. You get your own hosted console, upgrade, support, maintenance. And if you use the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, 10% off that price. And not just for the first year, but for as long as you have your canaries. You can also, and if you have any like trepidation at all, you can always return your Things Canaries. They have a 2-month money-back guarantee for a full refund. I do have to tell you, during all the years TWiT has partnered with Things Canary, their refund guarantee has never been claimed. Visit canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. As soon as you get these Things Canaries in your operation, you're going to say, how did I live without them? Sure, you can have all the defenses in the world, but as you know, security is a layered process, and one of the most important layers is detection. Because on average, companies take 91 days before they know they've been breached. That's 3 months for a bad guy to wander throughout your network, place little time bombs, exfiltrate all that information.
It's so affordable too. Like, I mean, I was looking at the pricing and I was like, this is super affordable.
For this kind of security? Yes.
20 years ago, this would be like hundreds of thousands of dollars at a minimum.
Well, and these guys really know their stuff. They've made an appliance that is absolutely hardened, is absolutely secure. So you don't ever have to worry about putting this on your network. We've had Things Canaries, as I said, for 8 years. Don't forget, canary.tools/twit. Put TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box to get 10% off for as long as you have your canaries. Canary.tools/twit. Yeah, these guys are great. I really like what they do. For the first time, social media, we're talking about trends, has overtaken TV as Americans' top news source. Is that good? If you're getting your news from Blue Sky or X, is that a good thing? This is according to Oxford's Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism. Their digital news report came out on Monday for 2025. They survey 100,000 people in 48 countries. So this is global via a YouGov survey. Traditional news sources losing influence in the United States. Actually, this is also part of the trend of people watching streaming instead of TV. Mm-hmm. Look what Warner just did. They said, we're going to keep the studios, we're going to keep the streaming channels, and we're going to let you guys have the cable channels. CNN and Discovery spun off. And you have to think that's basically the lifeboats. Goodbye.
Did you remember how I told you that I've been using the family controls to block the AI slop from my parents' YouTube account? The AI slop is mostly AI generated text to speech with AI generated images off of Reddit, directly off of Reddit. And that stuff is so wildly inaccurate, and yet they're treating it as it is an authoritative source. Yeah. So no, this is not good. This is horrible. This is terrible.
The number one place people use social media for their news, Norway.
Interesting.
76% Norway, then the UK.
Norway, I thought you were better than that.
Germany. US is a mere 60% people that prefer to read, watch, or listen to online news. The problem with that also is it's not just AI slop, it's also filter bubbles. It's also you get the news that confirms your bias.
That's the thing I'm concerned about, because on X, it's super right-wing, conspiracy theory, free for all, freedom of speech is like the defining characteristic. And when I'm on there, I had to put my replies, because I don't know if I'm close to 1 million followers now. My replies were just crazy. And so I put it on subscription and I said, I'm going to donate $3 a month to reply, and I'm going to donate it all to charity. So every month I donate $5,000 to charity, and I only get this small group of people replying.
People still pay to reply to you?
1,500 people are paying $3 a month, and it's better for me. I just did that for my own sanity and my own time, because getting 500 or 1,000 replies, and it's from crypto people and this and the MAGA people, whatever. But then I go over to Blue Sky, or I go to Threads, and it's like all the left-leaning people who've left X, and I come over and they're like,
just as the country is divided, we've divided. Yeah.
They yell at me. They're like, get out of here. You're friends with Sachs and Elon. And they start yelling at me. And I'm like, okay, but I'm still friends with you guys, right? They're like, no, you can't be friends with us. Go back over there. I'm like,
people have been mad at Mark Cuban on Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's like, this is the crazy thing, like as crazy as the MAGA folks are, like in their own unique way. I don't know if you guys know horseshoe theory, which is like the crazy people, on both sides just come really close like a horseshoe, and then the rest of us are in this big
shaking our heads, shaking
our heads, saying like, well, it doesn't have to be this way. We could actually talk to each other.
Yeah.
But the best hope the Democratic Party has, or one of the best hopes, is that people like Joe Rogan, who are part of the Democrats, that Mark Cuban.
Rogan's not a Democrat. What are you talking about?
He was his whole life. He
endorsed Trump.
But yes, recently. But before that, he was a Bernie bro. That's because he just, whatever the last person who said something to him, he goes, yeah, that sounds pretty good. But anyway, there's a lot of people on the left. Elon,
Elon is on the left?
He was a huge left-wing guy his whole life. Obama, Hillary, he supported all those people. When you take all the business people.
What happened? They all got red-pilled?
Basically, what happened was when you went as a business person and tried to communicate with the Biden administration, they wouldn't talk to you. And then they just kept adding regulations. You're like, hey, maybe this isn't the best interest of the country. Can we have a conversation? But they refused to talk to you. So then Trump was like, oh, they won't talk to you? I'll talk to you. Come to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, let's talk for days. And, it's putting judgments aside. If one group says, we're not even willing to talk to you, and you can't come to the EV summit, you can't do all this, and then the other group is like, we'd love to talk to you. Oh, we have like tons to talk about. How can we help? Then, of course, people are going to flow like water to the group that, wants to talk to them and wants to hear their issues. Zuckerberg is a great example of it.
That is a very strange interpretation of what's happening. I think the water is flowing to the power. I don't think it has anything to do with who's listening to who. I think it's very clearly that people say, well, I guess we gotta get in the pocket of the guy who's got all the power.
I'm talking about before he had the power. When that preference stack moved, I was watching it.
It was prior to the election?
Prior to the election.
Yeah, but people sensed, I think they sensed what was happening. I don't know. So what did happen to Mark Zuckerberg? There are those at Meta who say, it was any liberalism you saw in Mark was a thin veneer on the surface.
I think he's a weather vane. He's a weather vane.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people have been saying that he sort of is a moth flying to the light, and the light is whatever is.
I'd say the light is power. How can I get the richest possible? That he has a very clear North Star, and the North Star is money.
Growth, yeah.
Well, yeah, growth's another way of saying it.
Yeah. Which makes
maybe
it
it's
even
not just
weirder
growth's
that,
a better way of saying it, because it's not
is-
just money, it's also power, it's also cultural
access to
significance,
markets.
access to markets. As growth is a better way to say it, but it all comes down to his own personal value, right?
I think this whole transformation.
There's a lot of cynics out there.
Listen, I know the guy, not personally, but everybody around him. All this, like, he's become a brawler, testosterone, machismo.
So what Financial Times said, how Mark Zuckerberg unleashed his inner brawler.
They fell for the PR campaign. The whole PR campaign is he has more testosterone in his system. He's doing jujitsu. That's why he loves UFC. He put the UFC guy on the board. Trust me, if Kamala had won, he would have been singing Kumbaya and drinking soy milk lattes.
My point. That's exactly
he's
my
a weather
point.
vane.
Yeah. But power draws all of these people, because ultimately their goal is to share in the
There are some people who
money.
are, knowing them, who are very principled, and they make the decisions based on principle. You can.
Are they less successful, you think, because of it?
Yeah, you could be. Both models actually work. You could be extremely principled.
Depends what you define as success, I guess. Right? Robert,
money?
You would say you're successful in a way by following your beliefs, your principles,
I would push back
code.
against principled or non-principled, because you can be a principled person, just not have my principles. If Mark truly believes that growing Facebook is the best way that he can contribute to society, it protects his employees.
I think he does, by the way.
Then those are principles. Those are not my principles.
Right.
They're very, very against my principles. But I would hesitate calling him a weather vane, because we don't know what his metrics are. We don't know what success looks like for him. Now, if he were to say, "Oh, it's just money," I don't say that's unprincipled. I just say that's a horrible principle.
Right.
I just think it's nice that he has a hobby.
Yeah. Everyone needs a hobby.
Smoking those meats.
It's just,
The three old men are total cynics on this show.
there's just like,
because we've been around the block. That's
we've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
you can do the sleeping in your office, but I'm like, hey, at least he's UFC fighting or whatever. At least he has a hobby.
That's a good point. At least he has a hobby. It's a nice way to look at it. You're a very, very nice person, Amanda.
Very kind.
At least
very
he has
generous.
a hobby. Trump has extended the TikTok ban for another 90 days. That's the third time.
I'm expecting that it will be extended at the end of his term. It will just keep doing.
It's never going to. Yes. Yeah. But why is it that they're having a hard time finding a buyer? Is it this what we're talking about? Is it untenable that the Chinese Communist Party is not going to allow them to sell the algorithm?
This tells you everything you need to know. If this wasn't a strategic asset for the Chinese, then it would have been sold a long time ago. They would have taken it public and just sold all their shares. So this is their secret weapon. This is a way to influence culture in the United States.
It's one of them. I don't think it's their only one.
Not the only, but I do think it's top 5 for them. Like, this is, in terms of soft power, influence, data. I mean, if we could have, I don't know how many Americans are on it, maybe 100 million Americans. If we could have 1 out of every 3 Chinese people in a database and their movements and their IPs, we'd be pretty down with that. In fact, we might have certain things like that, just not done with TikTok. So, there's plenty of... We've had 3 incredible IPOs recently. CoreWeave went out and it tripled. We had Circle with USDC, the stablecoin company. We've had these great IPOs of late in the market. TikTok would be one of the great IPOs in history. It would, because it's got such a popular base of people
who wouldn't
addicted
want
to
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the reason
the fact
why
that it's not happened is a sign that it can never happen. Is that what you're saying?
We have to actually shut it down to make it happen. Yeah. We have to call their bluff. And that's a tough thing to do as a politician, since it's so popular.
He's got 15 million followers on TikTok. He's not shutting it down.
Well, and in Korea, they tried to shut down crypto a couple of times, if you remember, over the years. And the public wanted it so bad that they were like, you can't shut this down, and no politician will get in office. So he's got to call their bluff. But
he's not going to call their bluff.
He's using it as part of the trade. So now this has been rolled into the tariff discussion. And that's now become a cudgel or a lever for him with that discussion. So I think those things will be resolved at the same time.
Aren't the discussions with China over? Didn't we finally settle on 45%, and that's that?
I think there's going to be a grand...
Last time you were on, you said, and you were right in the short term anyway, don't worry. This was just...
back down.
They'll go back down. This was just before Liberation Day, because Trump always chickens out. And actually, you said, and I think you were right, he cares a lot more about public opinion.
Sure.
And if the market's telling him, no, these tariffs aren't any good, he's going to back down. But they're still pretty high.
I think they'll just wind up being reciprocal. I've now come up with a new term. I try to help my friends with TDS, because I'm a moderate. I don't get affected by this as much
Trump
as some
derangement syndrome, yes.
Well, and then I have on the other side of my friend group, Trump dedication syndrome, where they just repeat everything he says as if it's the gospel. No offense, Father, forgive me. It's not the literal gospel. And so I always tell folks the 72-hour rule, wait 72 hours, whatever he says. Is he still even talking about it? Like, half the time he's not even talking about it.
I thought that with bombing Iran, but apparently that wasn't.
And this is my new one. Case. Shock and bore. He does something shocking, and then it winds up being very boring. Tariffs was shock and bore. I predict this Iran thing will be like this crazy shock, and then it's going to be, we're out of this. We're not going to do any more, right?
I hope to God you're right, because it could go very wrong.
And in the meantime, Iran has shut down the strait, so they
say they want to. They haven't done it yet. They say they want to. But there is a lot of argument that they can't or won't. Can't because they don't have the means, won't because it would cost them dearly as well. But it would. This is where something like 20 or 30% of the world's oil goes through the Straits of Hormuz. And shutting it down would have a massive impact on a global economy. But I don't think they even have the means to do it, to be honest with you. I think Trump probably, I think we're veering away from our mandate to talk about tech, but as long as we're here, Trump probably sensed that they couldn't fight back at this point.
They don't need
I hope he's right.
They just need the threat.
Right.
Any sort of uncertainty in that market,
it's got to be credible.
Massive fluctuations.
Yeah, it's got to be a credible threat, and I don't know if it's credible at this point. I don't know. And we're all just. My breath's been held. I don't know what's going on.
We don't have complete information, so people are trying to get me to pick a side. And I just said, listen, hey, we're 5 months into Trump's second term, and we're at war. And that was his big promise: no more wars. We won't go to war. Yeah. And then people are like, oh well, this is a just war. This isn't a just war. And I'm like, I didn't give an opinion. I'm just making a statement. We're 5 months in. We're in a war, and they're like, it's not a war. I'm like, we just bombed them. That's a war.
You know about Chekhov's gun, right? The Chekhov's gun theory.
Oh no, explain it. Yeah.
He has a narrative principle. He was a playwright, Russian playwright, that if a gun is shown hanging on the wall in the first act, it has to be fired by the end of the play.
By the third
act.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like
as soon as I saw this military parade, this was Chekhov's gun. There was no way that Donald Trump wasn't going to get so overwrought and excited by the idea of having the strongest, most powerful military in the world that he would not use it.
Yeah,
and that's what scares me.
Way more exciting than that parade. Just gonna.
The parade was not exciting.
The two things I noticed about this, is one, I feel like they were goading him on, like whatever the military industrial complex was really high pressure to do this.
And Bibi Netanyahu.
If you look at the two things that I was like, wait a second, where have I seen this movie before? They're like, oh, they tried to assassinate Trump twice. And then, you're like, wait a second, wasn't that what they did with Bush? Didn't they tell him they wanted, Saddam Hussein wanted to assassinate him, as this,
you think that's what's going on?
Well, no, it's a history rhymes kind of situation. And then the other thing that rhymed for me where they were like, well, they've got weapons of mass destruction and it's imminent.
Yeah, that sounded kind of familiar.
Oh, where have I heard these two things?
Where's that yellow cake? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like both things again. And it just feels like whoever we put
number three. What's number three? Which is, the Iranian people would welcome the liberators.
Oh, right. We're going
regime change.
Regime change.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I keep hearing these three trends. Thank you, Father. That was a great punch up. And you're like, does it matter who's in office? Because we still go $2 trillion in debt and we still go into the Middle East and go on some crazy war that doesn't seem like it's going to be solvable. Can we just stop doing both of these things and see how it works for, 10 years maybe?
Through this show, Jason, you've espoused a fairly progressive agenda of more education.
Yeah.
So, you sound like a progressive. You got to be careful, Jason. You could.
I've always been a.
You could be blue-pilled.
I vote. If you look at my track record, 2 out of 3 times I've voted blue, 1 out of 3 times I've voted red. I'm a first principle guy, and just try to solve these problems. And also the game changes on the field, doesn't it? Like, we might not have been able to afford universal health care for some period of time in a country. And now it's pretty clear we can.
And should.
And it would be better. It's better. So sometimes
it's better for business. Why is business shouldering the cost, right?
And then people won't leave one job. Amanda might have her.
That's the only benefit to business.
TechCrunch,
that's right.
Our health insurance and being independent.
You can't leave.
Oh, is it changing?
Well,
for the better or worse? Or
I am paying more, I will say.
Yeah.
Well, we all are. I mean, healthcare is soaring.
But the fact that it's tied, to your employment.
I was a super conservative for most of my life.
Really?
And one of the principles of that super conservatism was, any universal healthcare is bad, it's evil, it's terrible. And then I live in a place with universal healthcare.
It ain't so bad.
Oh my God, it is so much better.
There's no death panel.
Why is it better? Explain to people who are religious about this issue.
Let me give you two examples. One, there's a certain medication that I have to use. It's just a foam for my skin because my skin gets attacked by my immune system and so on and so forth. Here, it costs me €5 a bottle. If I buy it in the United States, it costs 1,500. It's the exact same medication.
Wow. And it's not like, by the way, Italy is so rich that they're subsidizing this.
It's true. There is subsidy, but that subsidy comes from our taxes. It's what we pay into the system. It's just baked in. Before I left the United States, I had to have a surgical procedure. I had no idea how much it would cost. I had no idea who the stakeholders were. All I knew is that when I received the bill, it was $72,000. Now, the various insurance companies, the hospital and the doctor, they argued all with themselves. They did their dance, and it finally got down to $2,900, which is still a lot. I had the exact same procedure done again in Italy. It cost me €28.
Yeah.
And I knew.
But did you have to wait? Were there long waits or?
I had to wait 7 months in the United States, and that was fast. I waited 3 days in Italy.
What's happened to our healthcare system in the U.S. is somewhat shocking. I don't know what the forces are, the economic forces are.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about it with people that don't live in the U.S., they're like, what do you mean that
we pay more than any other country for care that is 27th?
It's because of the middle. There's the middlemen that take all the money. The insurance companies, they take all the money.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's pretty simple.
It's pretty simple.
70%.
Yeah.
Well, there is I was bringing up self-reliance, radical self-reliance earlier. I think in healthcare, it's starting, and because I get a front row with being involved in startups to seeing this. Education, jobs, and healthcare.
Yep.
These three things are controlled by the state in the United States, at least, or deeply impacted by them. And they have the hyper inflation. When there's hyperinflation for college degrees, when there's hyperinflation for healthcare and real estate and education, all these things, you then have people start to roll their own. They take control of their destiny. I recently did that with my healthcare. I used to have concierge doctors, fancy doctors. We would pay, I don't know, $25,000 or $50,000 to a year to have like the ability to have a doctor come by the house anytime we wanted. And then I started self-directing, and I used something called superpower.com that takes your blood every year, puts it into an interface. There's another one called Function Health. And then people are starting to take control of their healthcare, find the pricing, do it themselves. Another one is we have a startup that's doing different surgeries and cosmetic surgeries. They're a marketplace for this. Different places are becoming better at providing these, and the cash cost of getting veneers and doing dental surgery in Mexico is cheaper. In South Korea, cheaper for rhinoplasty or breast augmentation, for hair transplants in Croatia. And so, this is superpower.com. It's incredible. And so, is
this one of your investments, or is just something?
I'm not an investor. I just use it, and since I fell in love with it, I bought it for some of my employees. $500 a year.
I'm thinking I should probably do this.
You just get a blood work done every year. They put it into a system, and then you have a concierge you can talk to, like a coach.
This is how medical has changed, which is we used to think doctors were gods, and we put all our trust into the doctor, and we've started to realize they're not. And
they're
you have
Googling
to do a little
stuff,
bit on your own.
Yeah, they're Googling stuff just like us, right?
Yeah.
So now, if you have an LLM, I think we're probably at the point right now where putting your symptoms and your blood work into an LLM.
I did that with Perplexity before I went to my doctor. I did the new deep research thing.
Yes.
Got a great thing, brought it into him, said, "Hey doc, this is what I want."
And how much better was the discussion?
It was great.
I think right now the average doctor is probably below the service level because they're under so much pressure to get you out of there.
Yeah, Kaiser has
working with
my doc has 5,000 patients now.
What? Oh my God.
That's ridiculous because Kaiser, and a lot of it is not Kaiser's desire, but doctors are leaving.
And this goes to our conversation we've been having, Father. When do you prefer Father or Padre? What is the sorry?
I've used both.
Okay, I like Father because that's how I grew up. Father, when we were talking before about self-reliance and the cost of things going down. Look at this, it's so expensive for healthcare, and then you can use these services now, $500 a year. They do your blood work, they normalize it, they show the changes over time, and then LLMs being able to coach you. I think these combination of things will be cheaper, Amanda, than the healthcare you're paying for out of pocket. And at a certain point, people are going to start getting like catastrophic healthcare which is like over $10,000 or something, and then you can utilize it, and then just using quantified self and rolling their own, because the rolling of your own will be a better experience. It's just, my gut is telling me that as an investor in technology companies, but we're getting close.
Right. Rolling your own works if you've got some savvy.
Right.
Most of the population doesn't, though. In the United States, I know, and I know this figure is disputed. It's, I think the figure that I trusted the most is about 42 to 47% of U.S. healthcare costs go into overhead. It's a ridiculous number, just because with all of the different levels of insurance and going back and forth, so much money gets spent on that. Relatively little gets actually to the doctors or the hospitals. You look at a system like Italy, and even though, yes, I'm not saying it's perfect, it does have issues. That overhead percentage is something like 5, maybe 6. So when you're talking about radical self-reliance, I would also think that includes examining the systems that are providing you these services and saying, where is their waste? I mean, you talk about government efficiency. Those should have been looking at the healthcare industry and all the different levels that are only there to sap their percentage.
Yeah. Opting out is the way to, what I find is as people opt out of certain things, then those folks are forced to innovate. And we see that in technology all the time, where people are like, this solution is not working for me. I'm out. Yeah. I don't want to buy client server software. I'm going to buy, I'm going to use some open source software. And then it makes the price come down, or people get sharper. That competition, it's hard for it to happen, but it typically happens slowly, then all at once. And I feel like
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. But in my profession, I'm also looking out for the people who can't do that.
This is what I love about talking to you, Father. I love being on the show with you because, you start with, the meek and the poor. And it is such an important thing to do. I think radical self-reliance and deep empathy, one of the, I always like when I'm on the show with you, Leo, to think about what we talked about after the show, and I take a bunch of notes because I get great ideas. And I think the theme for me is adding like deep empathy, radical empathy to radical self-reliance, because not everybody can be motivated. Not everybody knows about superpower. Not everybody, has the desire to start their own career, right? And then somebody like Amanda might be like, actually juggling that. Like, oh my God, do I have the radical self-reliance, or am I too reliant on my employer, right? And I think this is really the future of Americans. We have to think about these things very deeply. It's one of the things I don't like about this administration is the cruelty that they exhibit. And I don't want to go off topic here, Leo, but the cruelty and the sadistic nature of some of the things they do is a real turnoff for me. And I think we should be thinking with much more empathy.
Yeah. I mean,
see, he's gone to church again. That's what's happened. He's gone back to church.
Man, you don't know how many Hail Marys I'm going to need to do. It's been a long time, Father, since my last confession.
Sorry, Amanda. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that when we talk about these things, we're fundamentally coming at it from places of privilege where, like, even if I talk about, like, I can entertain the thought of what would my career look like if I quit my job because I have the savings from working this job. I don't have any children. I don't have like relatives I'm in charge of caring for. But I feel like things like healthcare, I don't think we should have to be radically self-reliant to get good healthcare. I wish this was something that is just baked in, where the majority of people are trying to like get food on the table for their kids and then go to work and like take care of their families and don't have the time to like reinvent the healthcare system for themselves. And like maybe that'll change in the future. But I think for right now, it's like we're with all of these like technological changes, like we're sort of stuck in this moment where we're in the middle, and what's happening right now is that people aren't going to the doctor because they don't want to spend the money because it's so expensive. And then people get sicker and they can't work, and it just keeps compounding.
We're one of the few countries where we have medical bankruptcies, and they're widespread. I mean, that doesn't happen here. That does not happen in Italy. And I didn't realize that's actually a thing that could happen, but no, it totally works.
Yeah, I like have money set aside knowing that like like I have like a weird tooth thing, and later in my life I know I'm going to need an implant, and I know that's going to be like thousands and thousands of dollars, and like that is built into my mind of like, this is money I don't actually have that I know I'm going to have to spend later on. And like it's not great to go to the
This is one of the great shames of this country, is that 60% of bankruptcies are medical bankruptcies. Is
ridiculous.
Shameful. It just shouldn't be happening in the richest country in the world. It just shouldn't.
And we also can't over-index with our, largely white privilege, or, California privilege, New York coastal society elitist privilege, that people are helpless. Because living in Texas now, I'm watching, I see people like, one of the great trends is chicken coops. I know this sounds silly as an example.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Chicken coops are booming across the country, and it is a tiny, but yet another little hash mark in my self-reliance trend box. There's a company called Coop. They make a smart chicken coop. I have it. And I watch these startups, and the smart chicken coop is, unnecessarily sophisticated. It opens and closes with sunrise. It's got cameras. It's great if you got kids.
You know what you really need with a smart chicken coop is one that moves around so that the chicken poop doesn't focus.
They have it.
Yes.
They literally have.
Can we just make smarter chickens, because they are dumb as rocks.
Too. Yeah. So I have this coop. It's hilarious. So but we have 6 chickens now, and we'll get more. But this is
not a good solution to the food shortage crisis in this country.
Actually, it is. I take the other side.
Victory gardens. We all need victory gardens.
There are people who are now. You think about communities. You think about sources of food. There are people doing this in major ways, and at churches here, they will put out baskets of eggs and just say, take them. Because people have so many chickens, so many eggs, and chickens, they just breed. And you become, again, back to radical self-reliance. People can learn anything on the internet. You can learn how to take care of chickens. Just like your son with his sandwich shop learned how to make the best beef, au jus.
Yeah, wait. That is kind of the opposite of radical self-reliance, because you're giving away your eggs. So you're taking eggs from somebody else. That's the opposite. That's called community.
No.
That's called community.
But wouldn't
that's my point, is that people have become self-reliant, and then they have abundance, and they give it to everybody else. Yeah. So I think one of the problems is elite rich people think that poor people have no self-reliance and no ability to move up. They do. They're very creative. They have great
and they work really hard.
And they work really hard.
They work
immigrants
really hard.
Are doing this. So I want to be careful we don't actually underestimate people who are on the bottom rung jobs too, that they're just paralyzed and they can't possibly ever ascend, when all of us did. Everybody here ascended, over generations, I'm sure, with all kinds of things that were wind at our backs. And sometimes, our forefathers and mothers had maybe some wind in their faces too. I know mine did. But people who are on the up and coming and who have those, low rungs on the ladder, they wind up learning skills. Those skills are available. You can learn them on YouTube. So don't underestimate the meek or the poor is the other thing I would say.
The only people in the United States who are actually self-reliant are the people who know how to grow their own food. We have to be really careful with this.
And have the land to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you say self-reliance, it's like that's that means something totally different to me.
Just because you're rich, you're not self-reliant. If the systems that you rely on to spend your wealth on to keep you alive and in this lifestyle of comfort that you desire fall apart, you are not self-reliant. If you do not know how to grow your own food, and it's not easy. It's not easy to grow enough food to actually keep you and your family alive, then you're not self-reliant.
I'm getting close.
No one's self-reliant. I'm
getting close. I got the chicken, so I got the
protein.
One in this
I got the
wells, so I got the water.
Where'd the water
I don't have
come
vegetables
from?
Yet. I have 2 wells.
Oh, okay.
2 wells. I know how to do the wells.
Did you dig them?
No, somebody came and dug them.
Okay.
That's true. Well, we do live in a society. When I say self-reliant too, I mean the ability that when bad things happen, you can recover from them, and you have this ability to say, "I'm not going to just lay down and take this layoff."
Good thing to espouse. I agree 100%. Yeah. We're going to take a break because I have to. I can't dig a well. I don't have chickens.
But you can read a mean ad.
I can read a mean ad.
You're good. You can read a good ad.
This is my self-reliance, baby.
Absolutely.
We will continue. You're watching This Week in Tech with Jason Calacanis, Father Robert Ballecer, Amanda Silberling from TechCrunch. It's great to have all three of you. Great to have you, too, our Club TWiT members especially. Thank you for the support. It's been a big year for Club TWiT. 25% now of our operating costs come from the club. Thank you. If it weren't for you, we'd have to cut back on shows. We'd have to cut back on staff. And instead, we're expanding in the club. We're doing more in the club than ever before. It really is nice to have that support. If you're not a member of Club TWiT, consider it. We'd love to have you. Just find out more at twit.tv/Club TWiT. It's the best club ever.
I like it.
Club ever.
I went in there and
that Discord is a great hang. I love it.
I was on the message board replying to some of the things because when I was on last time, people were.
You were in the TWiT. You were in our forums. Yeah, the TWiT.
I was
community.
in the forums, and people were like, "Oh my God, there's a."
I saw
one
that.
of the panelists in the forums.
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah, you guys can't just talk ish about me and not get a reply."
No,
because somebody was upset about something. I think it was the tariff stuff or whatever. And I mixed it up with them. It's like. Top 1% of TWiT listeners are in there discussing the topics from the show. It's a great place to hang. But I got to get on the Discord.
The Discord is great. Well, I'll send you an invite.
Oh,
if you
no,
don't
I am on the
one.
Discord.
Yeah. I thought you were.
Yeah.
We also do special events for the club. For instance, my old friend Norman Maslov has a YouTube channel called Mazzy's Music, all about vinyl records. So I thought we'd have some fun and get Mazzy on to talk about vinyl. And then in the hour before that, we're going to talk about the rise of the MP3 and digital music. So with a guy who just wrote a book about it, we're going to have a lot of fun. This is Friday, June 27th, this Friday. It's going to start at noon Pacific. We'll get the other one in there, noon Pacific. We've got our AI users group, which has become really, really fun. Next one is July 11th. We do our photo show with Chris Marquardt every month. Quirky photos, start taking them. Micah's Crafting Corner was great this week. I hope you participated. If you didn't, another one's coming up.
Wow, these are great community events.
Yeah, this is stuff we can do thanks to the club members who are really fantastic.
Which, by the way, I mean, I signed up for the year like $7-10 a month. Like, what a deal. If you get one like interesting conversation or tip or thing that makes your life better, it pays for itself.
Yeah, it's nice to have a social network where they're good people too. I go
to the movies. People. It costs $200.
Yeah, this is a lot less than going to a movie.
It's a lot less than going to a movie. Like
that is true.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Twit.tv/Club TWiT. We appreciate it. Our show today brought to you by Storyblock. This is a sponsor that's doing something very interesting and something I really deeply appreciate and support, the idea of a headless CMS. So the front end can be anything you want. The back end is reliable, secure, and offers an incredible user interface. If you've ever worked at somewhere like, I don't know, TechCrunch, you've probably experienced some of these legacy CMSs. A lot of marketing companies have to deal with them. They promise enterprise-grade features, but you get this slow, clunky system. And if you want to make a change, you got to put in a ticket. You got to get a developer supporting you. And when you're trying to move fast, that is a nightmare. Well, Storyblock is the opposite. Unlike those monolithic content management systems, Storyblock is headless. It completely decouples your back end from your front end. So developers, you get to work in any framework you like, React, Astro, Vue, whatever. Marketers, you get an intuitive visual editor to create and update content without filling out dev tickets. You get autonomy. You get, the power to make what you need. And by the way, Storyblock scales whether you're a freelancer or part of a global enterprise. They have a global CDN, AWS data centers in the US, in Europe, in Asia. It's built for performance at scale all over the globe. And man, is it enterprise ready. Built in, comes with role-based access control, enterprise SLAs, top-tier security, the stuff Fortune 500s demand. One big global e-commerce giant switched to Storyblock and cut their content update cycles from weeks to hours. You can read about it on the Storyblock site. Another major brand empowered marketing to launch campaigns independently, freeing up the devs for bigger projects. It's actually what we did with our website, an API-first approach, which means your content loads fast anywhere in the world. It means better UX. It means higher engagement, improved SEO, and they have the best real-time visual editors. So, for instance, if you're a marketer, you're going to see exactly what your content is going to look like before you publish it. And if you want to move something 4 pixels to the right, no more endless back and forthing over minor tweaks. The devs, they get fewer interruptions. Marketers, you get more autonomy. It's a win-win. If you're an agency, you got to look at Storyblock. They have multi-client workspaces, flexible permissions, seamless collaboration tools. Storyblock makes it easy to manage multiple projects without disrupting development workflows. So it doesn't matter whether you're a startup, an enterprise, an agency juggling multiple clients, Storyblock gives you the power and flexibility you need. Try it today at storyblock.com/TWiTTV-25 and use code TWIT25. TWiT listeners get 20% off for 3 months on Growth and Growth Plus plans. That's storyblock.com/TWiTTV-25 with code TWIT25 for 20% off the first 3 months on Growth and Growth Plus plans. STORYBLOK.com/TWITTV-25 with code TWIT25, TWIT25. You got to try this. At least go to the website, take a look. Storyblock.com/TWITTV-25. We thank him so much for supporting This Week in Tech. This is kind of a sad story, but it underscores where we have perhaps not done the right thing in Congress. The suspected Minnesota killer, of the 2 members of the House, one was shot, one was murdered. Their spouses were also shot. He had a notebook, which authorities confiscated, filled with addresses for people search sites, aka data brokers. That's how he found people. That's how he was able to put together this list of people that he was stalking and eventually murdering. And it's because in the United States, we still have no comprehensive privacy protection. These data brokers are out there. We've always said, it's a problem for privacy. It's a problem for security, for harassment. But now it's also a problem for murder. It was 1994 that Congress created the Drivers Protection Privacy Act. This was after a stalker hired a private investigator who would get the address of an actress who was killed. You may remember. Mm-hmm. That's the last they did. That was the last time. Now data brokers can sell any bit of information about you, including your social security number, with absolute impunity. He had all these sites. I mean, it was a dozen different sites.
Yeah, there's a service called Delete Me that a lot of journalists use, which is basically just like an automated service that goes through all of the data broker
we
websites.
use it, and they're a sponsor, Amanda. Yep.
Well,
totally support them.
I'm as good as Jason. No,
totally support them. But it's a shame we have to do that.
No, yeah, I mean, it's terrible. And I mean, even just sticking with the radical self-reliance theme, I mean, like a big benefit that I've had not being independent was that when I was a bit greener than I am now, I had a situation where I had like an alt-right activist found my address and was like mailing stuff to my house. And thankfully, when we were owned by Yahoo at the time, and they have a security team of people that are specifically trained for doing security for journalists. And like when you are in those moments, you kind of need help from people that have gone through that before to like tell you what to do to keep yourself safe. But like this is like an occupational hazard for journalists that you have to understand. That
anybody in the public eye,
yeah.
But even if you're not in the public eye, it's not so hard to track you down, and it's
people shouldn't be able to find my address because they know my first and last name, but you can.
Yeah.
I've been swatted. I've had the front of our house set on fire. I've had my car defaced. Yeah, I mean, this was when I was at TWiT. It's like, that's par for the course. That's table stakes. You got to admit that's going to happen at some point.
And unlike Yahoo, we're such a small operation. We don't have a security team that can swoop in and protect you. I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, but I mean, terrible. Even then, it's like there's only so much they can do. Like, it's not like they're not going to like station like a Yahoo guy outside of my apartment or whatever.
It's
but
not
like,
exactly the Secret Service, is it?
Yeah, the secret Yahoo service. But
yeah.
Like,
I got to do that. Delete me. I know you've had them as an advertiser before. Does that actually work? Like in getting yourself out of some of these things? It does.
no,
Yeah,
I mean,
the
honestly,
problem
it
is-
does work.
It does work, right? That's what
you
I think.
have to keep doing it because these guys,
Keep coming
there's
back.
new data brokers all the time. Even though these guys are supposed to delete your stuff, and you can't do it manually, but there's hundreds of them, so it's not practical.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
also-
really adhere to the rules. They'll rebuild your dossier. It's like a whack-a-mole. It's terrible.
I get a overzealous person every couple of years.
Yeah, I'm
They're
sure you
usually like mentally ill, super fan. So, or they're suffering
That's
from some
exactly-
mental illness, and
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
exactly what it is. Yeah,
it's they usually just really care. They hear your opinion, they're a fan, and they just don't know how to express it, or something's going on, and it's we really have a mental health crisis in this country, I think. And that's something we need to work on. That's it's related to healthcare.
it's a good interpretation, though, Jason.
The sad
I think
part
that's
is
the case. It's not.
The people who have wished me the most harm and the people who have caused me the most grief started out as super fans.
Right.
Yes, and you
They
disappointed
swing.
them at some point in their mind.
Exactly.
And so
betrayed
when I get the most vitriol, I'll be on this podcast. I'll be like, "Oh my God, self-reliance, you're ridiculous. Like you don't know, everything's stacked against you, whatever." And I'm like, I really appreciate the feedback, Robert. And I put their name in it. And they write back, I could have said that kinder. I'm sorry. I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
And when I say their name back to them, and I just treat them with a little bit of grace, a little bit of humanity, it is absolutely dissipates that energy, and
That's smart.
it's
smart.
it's a very easy Jedi technique, which is, assume some good faith here, or assume the person's having a tough day.
Right.
Everybody gets in a fight with their spouse or stubs their toe or anything in between. So if you assume what's the worst possible day this person had in their life, and am I interacting with them? Well, if you have some notoriety, that's going to happen frequently. And you just have to understand that's part of this micro fame or, celebrity or notoriety that you're going to have. Now, there are sick people, right? And there are evil people too. Evil exists in the world as a concept as well. At least as Catholics, we believe that. So,
also from 404 Media, which, by the way, knocking it out of the park on these.
They do a good job. What's the
They're
story
amazing.
with 404? I mean, I know what a 404 is, like error.
So the story was these guys were at Motherboard. There's a small group. They were at Motherboard and like a lot of other people, Vice shut down Motherboard.
Right.
And so these are the guys, Jason Keebler, and so they went off and did their own thing. Samantha Cole, Jason Keebler, Joseph Cox, Emmanuel Myberg. And they said, well, radical self-reliance.
There you go.
We're going to create our own site. But what's good is they're very good investigative journalists. Jason was the editor-in-chief at Motherboard for 6 years, did so much good work there. And so they've basically put together a group of people who are really effective. I don't know if it's a good business. I hope it is, because we covered their almost every episode. We have this is the second story in a row from them. 40,000 cameras, from bird feeders to baby monitors, are wide open on the internet. We talked about it on Security
Don't we
Now.
just expect this by default now?
Yeah.
I assume any camera that streams to the internet is compromised,
Yeah.
right?
I do. Yeah.
Cybersecurity risk intelligence company BitSight was able to access and download content from thousands of these systems, including domestic and commercial webcams, baby monitors, office security, pet cameras, bird feeder. The big thing now is bird feeder cameras.
I've got
Yes.
one. Yeah.
They're cool. I
got it from my mom. She loves watching the birds.
Well,
It's
and so
really
do
cool.
her. So do the hackers across the country, across the world. The most concerning examples, BitSight says, we found were cameras in hospitals or clinics monitoring patients.
Not good.
It doesn't take elite hacking to access these cameras. In most cases, a regular web browser and a curious mind are all it takes. So these 40,000 cameras are probably just the tip of the iceberg.
This is what happens when you also buy some of these commodity products
Right,
on
the
Amazon. Yeah,
Or
instead of from a
Temu or
notable,
Alibaba.
yeah, because they're just like thrown together. There's nobody in the United States who's going to get sued when these things happen. And that's, as bad as this ambulance chasing, suing thing we have in the United States is, it does put people at the top of their game on a security basis and responsibility basis, because you could have the risk of ruin. Your company could go out of business. And this is where using a Google webcam or whatever, professional webcam is out there. I'm not sure who makes the best ones these days. It's good. The other thing about privacy I've been thinking about is I went to dinner with somebody and they had an AI pendant on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I ordered that one.
You
The
had one of those, Lee.
Yeah.
Limitless. Yeah, I have this one. This one's the B. I wear this all the time. So
yeah. So somebody had one of these at dinner, and I look at it and it's glowing.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what's that?" And they said, "Oh, it's my AI thing." And I'm like, "Is it recording us right now?" It's like, "Yeah,
everything." Yeah.
And I'm like, he's like, "Is that a problem?" I'm like,
No.
Only if you want to maintain your friendship with me.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you want to get invited back to dinner. And he's like, "Oh, you're the only person who ever really had a problem with them." I'm like, "Do you ask everybody before you record them?" Because
people
like
probably don't know.
People don't know. And I really think we have to think through these glasses and those pendants. And what is social norms on? I assume I'm being recorded all the time as, a notable person in the world. I'm assuming people are recording me all the time. But I was particularly disturbed by this because there was a friend of mine who really didn't think that having an AI summary of our dinner.
More and more people are going to do that. That's going to be universal.
A transcript.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in this world.
Now, this thing records, makes a transcript, then sends an AI analysis along. So it's just the notes, the action items, things we talked about.
What is that?
But I'll make
on your wrist?
This is B.computer. I've been wearing this since January. They showed this at CES. I do have a button I could press that will turn it off, but it's on by default.
So if we get
start using those during confessions,
no, you should not. No.
Father, no.
An AI summary would be perfect, right? It keeps clear for my notes.
I'm going to give you an AI summary of my 10 Our Fathers and my 15 Hail Marys.
Let me just give you the bullet points, okay? Just the bullet points.
Hot place very soon. It's just that.
Oh
no.
I guess we kind of need. You're right, absolutely right. And in fact, in many cases, certainly in California, it's a two-party state. The law requires that you get permission before you record. Yep. But I think we are increasingly living in a world where we are being surveilled by cameras everywhere.
Just assume you're being surveilled.
The minute something happens, everybody whips out their phones and starts shooting it, right?
That's a very weird dystopian thing.
Isn't it strange?
I saw a video online. It's one of the things I don't like about social media. It's like these crazy moments that I don't want to see and have in my brain. But somebody tried somebody tried to sneak into a Disneyland kind of thing in China, and they hopped over the fence in the lion enclosure. Bad.
Not a good idea.
Yes.
And literally, you see the video. And the person pans across, and there's 100 people holding up their phones,
not saving the guy.
No,
taking pictures of it.
Eaten by 3 lions, and all people can think of is, well, I got to document this or live stream it. And I'm just saying, oh my God, this is so dystopian. Like, put your phones down and help.
We live in weird
the views. They're about to go viral.
Hell.
The likes.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it for the likes, and it's kind of creepy as hell.
Yeah. Well, I guess small bit of good news is that I was going to say that the Amazon Ring cameras work with law enforcement, because I remember that was something that was going on where they had given footage to police because they were trying to investigate something, and that is kind of a surveillance issue. But I looked it up, and apparently as of last year, Ring will no longer share
not automatically.
Not automatically. If you have a warrant, they will come and get it. My neighbor came down the street, said, my house got TP'd last night. Do you have any video? And I said, well, yeah, I have cameras everywhere. I sent him the video from that time period.
Yeah.
And did catch the guy. I don't think it was because of my video, but he'd gone down the street. Every single person on the street either had a ring or some other surveillance.
High school graduated and people got TP'd. It's just a tradition.
It's normal. But now you can't get away with it.
You can't even TP.
You can't even TP a person's house. There's recordings.
Well, come on. TP and eggs these days are way too expensive to spend on throwing
who can
houses.
afford it?
Yeah, no, the eggs. Unless you're self-reliant and you have your own chicken coop. There's a really interesting...
That's the reason to have your own chicken coop.
Absolutely. You can egg your neighbors.
Oh my God.
There's a very cool company called Flock safety, I think, Flock Safety. I looked at it as a potential investment and I missed the window. This company for communities, and like, again, this is like one of these double-edged swords. They record all the license plates coming in and out of your...
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Flock,
And
I know about Flock. This is
yeah.
a big story because
Big
Flock is
story.
being used by law enforcement. For instance, your own Texas law enforcement used data from nationwide data from Flock to try to track down a woman who had left the state to get an abortion.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's horrific. So here
Flock
we go, folks.
Flock is a real... I'm glad you invested in them.
Well, the pro I was, that's obviously terrible. The pro I was pitched on it is like, this is a way to maintain privacy. You're not taking people's pictures, but you get the license plates. You keep them for a certain number of days. If something happens in your community, you can find the license plate numbers that aren't for people who live in the community. You don't have to have a gated community anymore and keep people out. But if somebody gets robbed, okay, here are a bunch of the license plate numbers that were in your community during this period when the home break-in occurred. So, again, this is something we're going to navigate.
It's a little dystopian too. I mean, it's basically
not a little. It
is a nationwide surveillance network, private surveillance network, basically.
And I do,
but they don't take videos of people's faces. That was
just the license plates.
Just the license plate. So
it's just the metadata.
Which people are, and they keep it for a certain amount of time, but people are also in communities doing facial recognition and taking all the people coming in and out of the community and facially recognize them. So, there's pros and cons here of like, what are the possible solutions? Yeah.
Yeah. And I do worry about how AI will interact with this kind of footage and how it's used by law enforcement, because also we know that there is AI that has biases based on the training data where it might be more likely to flag like a Black person as having done a crime. And
that's been my experience with
people have biases too, but it's
that's been my experience. What is that social network? Is it Neighborhood, where almost all the neighborhood next door? That's it. Next door. Yeah, almost all the next door posts are like, "There's a Black guy wandering around the neighborhood." Do you know?
Yeah, it's
so racist. It's so bad.
Racist.
Yeah, I worry that this kind of tech is just going to make racism worse, which is already obviously a huge issue with law enforcement. But
yeah, I mean, you're going to hear about the edge cases here, like this one, which is terrible that you're showing.
Texan authorities in May performed a nationwide search of more than 83,000 automatic license plate reading cameras to locate a woman they believe to have a self-administered abortion. They even they illegally accessed Illinois data to locate this woman, and it was Flock.
Yeah, and it's more than that. Illinois allowed them to access in violation of their own state laws.
Yeah.
So this is good that this is good that the system worked to find out that people did this illegally and catch the
police did not have a warrant.
Anyway. They should have had a warrant, right? Yeah. And this is a dubious, law as well. But this is dark. This is dark. This is Black Mirror stuff. Yeah.
But that's what you get, right? That's inevitable.
This is what Palantir does. It allows them to bypass all that, because it's not the government collecting the information. It's not the government analyzing the information. It's a third private industry company.
Yeah.
And therefore you don't have to worry about things like civil rights because it's not the government doing it. And we've been on TWiT. We've been screaming about this for 15 years now.
Yep.
And it's here. It's now happening. They have a massive contract.
And this is the technology, by the way, that they're using to pick up immigrants, right? This is the stuff they're using.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Palantir, in fact, is doing that specifically.
Are they?
That was the parade.
Was that reported? Yeah.
Yeah. All the banners are Palantir. Did you see that? The advertising support for the parade.
Well, sure. Why not?
I think there was also a Coinbase or something.
Yeah, there was a big Coinbase on these podium. That was brought to you by
Pets.com.
Hey, what is the story with these stable coins? We just passed the Genius Act.
Yeah.
In the United States, a stable coin is a cryptocurrency pegged to the value of the dollar. In this case,
it doesn't appreciate. It's just one for one. It lets you transfer for no cost or close to no cost. So
what's the interest in doing this?
So when you do money transfer between banks, you pay fees, and these make it very cheap to move. So Stripe bought a stablecoin infrastructure company. Circle just went public. They provide stablecoins. So it's a way to move money around without having to pay fees. You can't make interest on them. So that was the interesting thing in this Genius Act, because the small banks were concerned, okay, people aren't going to deposit dollars. And then there are offshore companies like Tether, and Tether has had a bunch of really, back to the dark word, like dark stuff like human trafficking. And, it's an offshore stablecoin that has over $100 billion in assets. What they're doing with this is saying you can have stablecoins in America. They're legal. They're regulated. You have to prove that you have the 1-for-1 reserve. So you have to buy
100% reserve? Wow.
You have to, yeah. So
because banks are only required to have a small percentage in reserve.
Yes. Right? So this is, the expectation by the public is if I buy these stable coins from USDC and I move money around, it's backed. When people were doing this with Tether, there were moments in time where Tether, it was questioned whether Tether actually had the money in the bank, basically, and that there could be a bank run. And they were doing attestations, which, not to get accounting technical, is like, okay, can show me a bank account with a certain amount of money in it, as opposed to an audit where it's like, show me all the transactions and we're going to put KPMG's name on or Ernst & Young's name on it. So this onshores stablecoins in the United States. And then really the reason the government's into this is because you have to buy treasuries, which is good for our sovereignty and keeping the dollar the global currency of the world, as opposed to people maybe using Tether as the global currency of the world to do trades, and then they don't have to buy treasuries, right? They can buy whatever they want. So it's ultimately, a good thing to have this stuff onshored and regulated. The only bummer is if you were to put $100,000 into stablecoins, you make no interest. So you'd want to put that into a savings bearing account where you can get 5% today. On different
So
services.
the entire benefit of stablecoin is low cost interbank transfers?
It's a
or
transport
between
layer.
us. Yeah, transport layer.
Yeah, think of it as a transport layer. That's all it is. It's a tool for transporting currency between different systems.
It's probably good that there be some regulation of it. The Senate passed the Genius bill. It goes to the House, but the House has its own stable bill.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're stable geniuses. We'll see what happens. Everybody and their brother, including Amazon and others, are rolling out stable coins of some kind. Bank of America, Deutsche
really
Bank.
Yeah. Think about the 3% we all pay on transfer fees, et cetera. Just imagine.
So I would buy some stable coins, send this to somebody.
It'd be in your wallet. It might be in your Coinbase, your Robinhood, your PayPal.
Right.
And, instead of paying very large transfer fees, you would pay very small ones.
Who makes money on this?
So these services are cheaper to run, and then they get the float. So if you're Circle and you have $50 billion, I think that might be, they have tens of billions.
The float,
Circle.
They make money on the float, which
they make money on the float. The interest.
Amount of time they hold that.
Correct. Now, in a high interest rate environment like we're in, it's really juicy. So I think Tether's making like over $10 billion a year right now or something crazy. Now, if interest rates go back down, which people suspect, then it will not be as great of a business and it will go up and down like that. But it's going to create more efficiency. And, if you think about what a drag on the economy fees are from credit cards, from bank transfers, et cetera, all that will go to the bottom line. So when you run a conference, or you're running Club Twit and, you have some millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you look at those fees and you're like, wow.
It does add up.
Yeah. You sell $10 million in something and you're paying 3%. You're like, $300,000 went to, or $400,000.
So is it credit cards and banks that are fighting?
It could. Yeah. So if you were, at some point, people will sign up for Club Twit for $100 and not use a credit card. They'll use their stable coins in their wallets.
Because of lower
Jason, quick question has there been any work done on the floor? So how big do you need your stablecoin to be in order to be able to survive something like a low interest environment? How balkanized can stablecoins get before you have so many players that it's just not viable to be in the market anymore?
Yeah, it might be one of these things where, there'll be a top 90% of the coins in stablecoins will be held by, be a power law. 90% of the coins will be held by the top 5 players, and there'll be a long tail, kind of like you have for credit cards. You might have like Diners Club still exists, but it's Visa and MasterCard world.
Do you have a Diners Club card?
I don't, but I do.
It was the first. I think it was the first credit card, but
it was. It was like a really kind of elite thing to do.
Mover advantage.
What I do now is I am really into bookmarking on TikTok and Instagram and other places. These food curators who say this is the best sandwich here, this is the best pizza slice here, this is the best ramen, and then when I go to a city, I pull that out, and then I compare it to other sources of information. I find like these influencers do a really good job of discovering.
Are you helping me plug my son? Is that what this is?
I teed it up for you. I just teed it up for you. Boom.
There's synergy here, Leo.
I'm looking for a sandwich. I'm walking around the village. If
you're looking for a good prime rib in the West Village, a good French dip, I can tell you. I can tell you where. It's right next to John's Pizza. All right, we're going to take a break. Thank you, Jason. That was a long way to go. I don't know how you got from there, from stablecoin to that, but you did it. You did it. It's beautiful. It was a work of art.
We're good on the pick and roll.
Last break here. We're going to have a bunch of silly stories, and then we'll wrap things up with a great panel. Amanda Silberling from TechCrunch, where she covers culture, internet culture. Senior culture writer. Also, now amanda.omg.lol on Blue Sky, the best Blue Sky handle. Jason Calacanis, host of All In. Do you do that every week now?
Once a week, yeah. Every Friday.
Wow. How do you get those guys together?
That was the secret to the pod is they were like, how do you become successful at podcasting? And I remember what Peter Rojas told me, just show up every day, like just be consistent.
That's all you have to do.
And, here we are on, episode 1000 something of TWiT, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Here we are.
I guess that's consistency. Either that or laziness. I don't know. Stupidity. I don't know.
That's consistency. I mean, it really does.
They used to call Walter Cronkite old iron butt because he could sit in the chair for hours talking about nothing. Yeah. I think I'm his spiritual successor.
There you go.
Also, Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit. It's getting late. We're gonna let you go to bed any minute.
Although I am gonna have a request for you, Leo. I was hoping I could be on TWiT in 20 episodes.
Yeah.
For 1057 because I want to be on the Lost episode.
Okay.
Lead speak. Yeah.
1057 Lost. Okay. Deal. Benino, make a note of that. Ask your AI to put that in the book. No, we always love having all of you on, all three of you. And Amanda's a regular every month on our Tech News Weekly show too. Regular.
True.
In fact, I think you hosted it. Did you host it recently? No. So every once in a while, Micah goes away and they make you guys do the job. But it wasn't you. Okay.
No, can't do it without Micah. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, I could, but
I know it's hard.
Find out. I've not found out yet.
It might have been Jennifer Patterson Tui. I'm not sure who. Anyway, great to have all three of you. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Oh yeah, the easiest way to hire. Let me tell you, summer's here. That means seasonal businesses are hiring up. Those Dune brothers there with the clam cakes in Rhode Island, man, they got to staff up right now. Everything from mule packers to drama camp leaders. Yes, those are actual jobs. This means that people with these very highly specific skills are in high demand, but they're not easy to find. So whether you're hiring for one of these roles or any other role, how do you find the top talent before the competition gets to them? ZipRecruiter. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/TWiT. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology does a deep dive to identify top talent for your roles. Immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's smart technology starts showing you qualified people for it. Gear up for summer with ZipRecruiter's high-speed hiring tools. See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Just go to this exclusive web address right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/TWiT. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/TWIT. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Thank you, ZipRecruiter. Longtime sponsors of our shows. We really appreciate it. I thought a good interview with Pavel Durov in Le Point, a French publication. Of course, he's a shared citizenship with France and Dubai, I think. He talked about his arrest in France. I think he defended himself quite well against accusations of kind of fostering terror and drug abuse. He says any platform like Telegram is going to have that kind of thing. We get rid of it when we can. He feels like he was perhaps being prosecuted. He said the charges were totally absurd. Just because criminals use our messaging service, among many others, doesn't make those who run it criminals. Nothing has ever been proven showing that I am, even for a second, guilty of anything. He also admits, I thought this was kind of interesting, to having 100 children. Now, before you go crazy, this is not an Elon Musk situation here. He has children, a handful of children in the normal way, but he is apparently a donor to a sperm bank. But he's keeping track of the children spawned from that sperm bank, and he says he is going to distribute his pretty much vast fortune to all of them.
That's wild.
Huh. That was my reaction, Amanda.
That's wild.
Huh.
Wait, is that even illegal? Can he find out who is that?
Well, apparently he's got some sort of deal going. Let me see if I can find that.
Well, I mean, it would have to be opt-in, right? They would have to want to take the money, and I guess whatever clinic is doing this insemination and providing. He said,
"I decided my children would not have access to my fortune until a period of 30 years has elapsed, starting from today. So it won't be until 2055. Okay, I want them to live like normal people, smart, build up themselves alone." Radical self-reliance, to learn to trust themselves, to be able to create, not to be dependent on a bank account. He says, I want to specify, I make no difference between my children. There are those who are conceived naturally, and those who come from my sperm donations. They are all my children and would all have the same rights.
Wow.
He said, 6 of whom I am the official father. The others come from my anonymous donation. The clinic where I started donating sperm 15 years ago to help a friend told me that 100 babies had been conceived this way in 12 countries.
He then says that he does 300 push-ups in a row and 300 squats every morning.
He's very fit. Doesn't drink alcohol.
This is not a chill dude. This is not a chill dude.
I don't smoke. I stay away from sugar. And anything that can make you dependent. I like being in cold water.
Yeah, this guy sounds like a
question
party.
Would be, how secure is the network of this sperm bank? Because I mean,
I'd like to get involved.
This would be a really good thing to have.
This is a very wide-ranging interview.
It was fascinating. I found it actually. Yeah, and maybe this is contrarian a little bit, but I found him kind of charming, and I was somewhat impressed by him.
It's certainly interesting. I always worry about folks from Russia creating anonymous apps and wondering
But he says, I left Russia because he created VKontakte, which is the Facebook of Russia. He says Putin's government wanted me to give information about my users to them. I refused. They forced the sale of VKontakte and I left Russia.
It just always, like anybody making a pit stop in Russia, starting, ending.
He does go back because his family's in St.
Hanging out there for too long. It just makes me, a little nervous. It just makes me want to double click and figure out, is there still some deep connection or relationship there?
Yeah,
I'm still not using it. Yeah, I don't use Telegram. I don't use WhatsApp. I am on Signal.
Did you see that WhatsApp is adding ads now?
Yeah,
this was the thing that the founders were very concerned about, was that Facebook would do this.
Didn't they originally charge $1 per year? I thought that was like the greatest business model ever. Like, just make $1 billion from $1.
One user, $1 per year.
Yeah, it was genius.
Meta bought them, as you may remember, for $1 billion in 2014. Oh no, it wasn't $1 billion. That was $1 billion. I think it ended up being, because it was a lot of money. Yeah, 19 billion.
I think it was 19. Yeah.
Maybe even more, because as Meta stock went up, it became.
Oh, it's up 20x since then, probably. Yeah.
So, Meta made more than 160 billion in ad revenue across Facebook and Instagram in 2024, but had not to this point put ads in WhatsApp. It says it's going to put them in the updates tab, where you'll see some sponsored status updates. It's got to be bugging Mark. He's got this gold mine.
Ads are irresistible because we have made them irresistible. We don't push back.
Yeah.
Amazon ads, we just, okay, we'll shrug.
Right.
Netflix ads on paid accounts, we'll shrug. Disney, Paramount Plus. Until the users of these services finally say, I'm just not going to use your service anymore. They know that they might get some pushback initially, but that's more than made up by the amount of cash that's going to come in.
I keep trying to pay for no ads on like Hulu and stuff like that, and I keep seeing them. Every time they give me
it's hard to do. I know. I had the same thing. I had to cancel my account and join through Disney and pay more, and I finally got ad-free Hulu. It was so frustrating.
So hard. I have it for the NBA. I pay
they
like an extra
want to
$50
show you
a
ads,
year.
however much you pay them.
The problem is, I was just talking to somebody from Facebook, like a very high level person, and he said, "Listen, if we let you pay to take out the ads, the only people who would pay are the most valuable people to the
The ones we want to advertise to."
So, it's like the only company that really does have integrity about this, I think, is Apple to a certain extent. Like you do see ads in the App Store, but they largely
failed. Remember, they were going to sell ads and it failed. So they made a virtue out of a necessity and said, "Oh, well, now we're the privacy company."
I would love to pay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Do you think that does Google lose money on something like YouTube Premium where you're paying a subscription,
that's a
but
good
you're
question.
not seeing the ads? I guess, I don't know if
it's getting pretty popular. Yeah.
You'd have to be crazy not to pay for YouTube Premium.
It's the greatest product ever.
Only because there's so many ads on YouTube.
I think that's how they do it. That's how they get you. They get you with the bread. That's how they get you, Leo.
I'm just going to go back to torrenting everything. I mean, they made it so easy to not torrent, but now I'm just, it's a matter of protest, I think.
Trust No One in our Discord says, Apple doesn't have ads, but have you seen what they charge for RAM?
That's the other thing. Yeah.
They don't need ads. So have you seen the new Digg? Has anybody seen the new Digg yet?
I haven't. I'm an advisor to the company officially, so I have to
and
go
you don't,
download
and
this.
Did you give them the $5 to be part of the advisory board?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great.
TechCrunch, Sarah Perez writing at TechCrunch. Here's your first look at the rebooted Digg. As you may remember, Kevin Rose, who started Digg, bought it back.
Yep.
And he and his arch rival, the founder of Reddit, Alexis Ohanian, now are going to bring Digg back together. They say that AI moderation will be the key. Digg, of course, immediately got gamed, and that's what brought Digg down. It was just, that and Reddit.
I love a revenge startup. I love this, like going back to the old brands, bringing them back, seeing if you can get bring the magic back. It's like a very retro thing, and I think it's going to work. I think
they brought back Digg Nation too, which is smart, right?
Well, if you think about, we were just talking about, what do we call it? The garbage internet or something where everything's trash and everything's AI produced.
The inshitification of the internet.
Yeah, there's that. But there's something about how polluted it is with AI spam. I think taking these old trusted brands back, bringing the original founders back and saying, hey, there's got to be a better way, pay us $5 a month or whatever, and try to make a clean human version.
The textpocalypse.
Textpocalypse. AI apocalypse.
No, it's just there is a lot of junk. I noticed in my replies on X/Twitter before I put them on subscription mode that a lot of them seemed to be coming in too fast.
Automated.
Yeah, they were coming in too fast. And from the same accounts, and they were clearly somebody had a prompt and they were trying to snipe people with big followings replies, because people who are in my replies get a couple of thousand views on their replies. So I think it's a better strategy to be a reply guy.
I think there's going to be an AI backlash. I really do. I think as much as I am an accelerationist and I love AI and I'm very excited about it, I'm starting to see that there's going to be a big backlash. People are not happy with the enshittification, the AI apocalypse. It's getting worse and worse.
But they can only have a backlash if they know what to look for.
Yeah, if you don't know it's AI.
I'm thinking of my parents.
Yeah.
They didn't know that 50% of the stuff they watched was AI slop. And it wasn't until I actually started going through and hand curating the stuff that makes it to their feed that they started realizing, oh yeah, those were really bad quality sources. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people also just don't have a good handle on what is or isn't AI if it's not advertised as AI. So this is something I've thought about where in my friend groups, like we will make a lot of stickers with the iOS like sticker thing where it cuts out the background and then the subject can be turned into a sticker. And that's using AI to detect where the edges are of what you're making a sticker. But then if you use the like gen emojis that make AI emojis, that's like not acceptable. But both are AI. And yeah, I feel like this is going to be sort of a similar issue where people don't know what they're looking for. And
it's an opportunity.
Have you seen, I bet your parents saw this, the AI support kangaroo, which looks like a woman getting onto an airplane with a support.
Yeah.
Well, it's a AI.
I've seen it. Yep.
But it's actually it's pretty obviously AI as it
it's
zooms
holding
in.
its own boarding pass. Obviously, I mean, we all know it would have a QR code and a smartphone, not a dead
that
giveaway.
looks too cute to be a kangaroo.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing video now. Midjourney's doing video, and it's all very good. It's very hard. This is from Midjourney. Very hard to distinguish between this and reality. This is all AI generated.
It's crossed the uncanny valley. I mean, we're sitting here debating. We were debating The Irishman and Luke Skywalker.
What Scorsese did with De Niro, and and you could tell it was fake, but this looks so real.
Not only could you tell it, Ted Sarandos said that cost like $30 or $40 million to do in that film.
That wasn't even that long ago.
And that was 5 years ago. Then Luke Skywalker on The Mandalorian was like 3 years ago. And now the consumer grade can do it for low hundreds of dollars.
This is Midjourney. Yeah.
But each of these is an opportunity. I always remember the cantina scene when they said, your droids aren't welcome here, like leave them outside. Chess solved. AI chess solved chess a long time ago. Got more people playing chess than ever. Queen's Gambit. Chess.com is a huge subscription business. I think it's got 10 million members or something crazy like that.
It's very successful. Yeah.
It's very successful. And chess is more popular now than ever, even though it's a finite game that has been solved. Why? People like playing it and they like learning it, and it's, interactive and it's fun. So I think this becomes the opportunity, guaranteeing all human interaction. Music became very easy to produce, electronic music, etc. And now what do people like? We had this moment where MTV did Unplugged. It was the most popular CDs in the CD era became MTV Unplugged. And it was just amazing to see that Nirvana could do an Unplugged. They were actual musicians. Or Oasis could do it.
That was my favorite.
Yes. And people at that time were like, we had these highly produced records by Dire Straits. They were Brothers in Arms was a phenomenon. But what people really wanted with Dire Straits was to see them live because they were actually better live. Yeah. They did a better job live. They were better musicians live than even on those record-breaking CDs. That's what's going to happen with AI. People are going to be like, you know what? I want to see you make me a Star Wars film like Andor where you use real sets, not
interesting.
The one where you do it on the background.
Not the volume.
So they did the volume stuff for the Obi-Wan show, and the Obi-Wan show was canned, and the Andor one was loved. Why? I think the realism and the grittiness of models.
You just brought up one of the things that I'm responsible for doing over here, which is leaning into the Vatican's AI effort of trying to remind people of what an actual relationship with another person looks like. As there are those who are saying, AI can solve the mental health crisis and AI can solve the loneliness crisis. We're trying to say, hey, how about actually learning how to have a real healthy relationship with another person or several other people? Because as silly as that sounds to people who grew up before the internet, there's generations right now, they don't know that world. And they don't know that there's a possibility of having those kinds of healthy relationships. And they don't know that those kinds of healthy relationships bring all sorts of wonderful benefits that they've never experienced before.
That's why I go every Monday afternoon to play chess at the local coffee shop with actual people.
Are you one of those chess hustlers, Leo?
Yeah.
Oh, do you really go to the cafe and do that, Leo?
Yeah.
That's great. It's great for neuroplasticity. It'll keep your brain
I have
young.
over here a chess board that I can play on chess.com. Never have to see a human. It tells me what their moves and all that stuff. But I'd much rather go down to the cafe.
Absolutely.
And
I played one game with Leo, and he destroyed me. And never again.
No, it's great. Never again. I deal with a lot of young founders, and they will become depressed and anxious because of so much pressure, from running these companies. And I said, when's the last time you went out with like 5 founders, cracked open a bottle of wine, had dinner, and talked about your challenges? And they were like, I don't know how to do that. So I started a thing where I bring founders together to have dinner. And what we do is we go around the table and I say, give us your rose and thorn, give us your biggest win and what you're struggling with. It's a safe environment, and it's transformed people's lives.
That's my job. That's what I'm doing. You're taking my job.
Father Jason.
Father J-Cal. I'm right.
No, I think one of the things that kind of still gives me hope is that even if things are going in a direction we don't like, there's very often the pendulum swings the other way. There's a backlash. Yes. And that maybe all of this AI slop will encourage us to become more human and spend more time with humans and make us value humans even more. We value music made by humans, art made by humans, writing made by humans.
I think what you're really talking about, Leo, is craft. Like people like to learn and to do their craft. So and
I will never play chess as well as even the dumbest chess game on my iPhone. Well, no, there are dumb ones, but like a decent chess, they're better than grandmasters even on my phone. That's not why I play chess. I don't play chess so that I can be smarter than a machine. I play chess because it's fun. Calculators are much better at arithmetic than I will ever be. But that's not a bad thing. It's just, if I want to play chess, I'm going to play chess. If I want to make music, I'm going to make music. Great fun to have all of you on here and to cheer us up as things seem to be spiraling in the wrong direction. Just remember, there is hope. Jason Calacanis, you always give me hope. It's always a great pleasure to see you. The All In Podcast, This Week in Startups at Jason everywhere. Yeah, it's great to see you. What a view.
Brother.
Love your view.
Yeah.
Father Robert has a great view, but can you have the camera? Can you show us what the Vatican looks like tonight?
Well, it's so outside of this is that.
Oh,
wow.
That's a view.
What? That's actually it. So if I open up this curtain right here, this is a huge picture window. It's the Vatican behind me.
That's the view.
God,
I know.
That looks like a postcard.
I know.
That's like so my jealous. Apple TV has that same thing in 4K.
Yeah, it's like when it's
trying
a
to show
screensaver.
Off. Yeah, it's a screensaver. Wow.
Father Robert, digitaljesuit.com. He's on Blue Sky as Padre SJ. You got anything you want to plug?
Nothing that I can talk about yet. We finished everything up with the funeral of Pope Francis and the conclave, and there's a lot of things in the works right now. Very exciting stuff in the works, but nothing that's public.
Good. Well, the best to you and to the Holy Father and to a great. He's my age, so now it's going to be it's a race basically to see whether I'll see another pope or not. It's going to be very interesting. I think he looks pretty healthy, unfortunately.
I mean, if you come back to Rome, I'll get you into an audience if you want.
Really? You could?
On. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd love to meet him.
Do that.
Just another Leo, right? Thank you, Robert. Mm-hmm. Great to see you. Amanda Silberling, you can catch her on Tech News Weekly every month. And of course, all the time. You file several times a day on TechCrunch, senior culture writer there. It's always a pleasure to have you on. What's your view? You have a view you could share with us? No, me neither.
Well, outside my window, there's just another brick building. So I'm really slacking out of the group.
But brick buildings in Philadelphia, they have history. There's your kitchen. That's a good view. It's great to see you. Thank you, Amanda. What's the name of your podcast again?
Wow If True.
Wow If True. Subscribe where you get your podcasts. What a great idea for a show. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We do TWiT every Sunday evening, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific, 5 to 8 Eastern, 2100 UTC. We stream it live in a variety of places. If you want to watch live, you certainly don't have to, but if you like to chat with us while you're watching the show, best place to do that, of course, in the Club TWiT Discord. But there's also free ways to watch, youtube.com, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, x.com, Kick. We stream on all of them. Between those hours, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific. Afterwards, you can get a copy of the show at our website, twit.tv, or you can watch it on YouTube. A great way to share clips. If there's something you particularly thought a friend or family member would love to see, just clip it out on YouTube and they can watch it that way. It also helps spread the word. Best thing to do, subscribe in your favorite podcast client. There are audio and video versions of every show. And if you subscribe, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. Let the world know that you are proud to be a twit. Thank you, everybody. I know I am. After 20 years, we're still doing it. And as I have been saying for the last 20 years, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Another twit is in the can. Bye-bye.
Amazing.